The daily life of a secret agent in American TV series. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 151 Lawyer Saul. Of course, the money was not donated by Ron to Caroline, although Ron's current wealth is not bad. All of this money came from an accident insurance that Mr. Channing had saved for his daughter before the accident. Channing, who knew not to put all his eggs in one basket, didn't know what he believed in, and actually put all the money left for Caroline in the hands of Lawyer Saul, an unscrupulous lawyer who specializes in defending gangsters, scammers, and drug dealers, and provides various shady business assistance. When Ron found Saul, he found out that Mr. Channing was actually using Saul to invest in various strange businesses. For example, a group of people in Detroit planned to rob a bank but had no money to buy weapons, so Channing's money turned into 6 M16 rifles and bullets, and the gasoline used by several people to drive. Another example is a 20-year-old young man in Somalia who often said, "I am the man who wants to be the pirate king," and then Channing's money turned into a speedboat and RPG that carried his dream. All these things, Saul just used them as examples, but no matter what, even if Ron put a gun in Saul's mouth, he refused to tell the names of these people and their specific actions. Ron has been working as an agent for many years, and he has never seen such a stubborn guy. Of course, it may also be related to the fact that he did not use all his means. In short, Saul played the role of an underground world bank and fund manager very well. When Ron got the code and planned to withdraw the money, Mr. Channing's money had actually increased several times. Ron was sure that if the fund managed by Saul could be legally listed, it would be bought up in minutes. This return on investment is no different from picking up money for free. In particular, Saul was able to take out the money when Ron wanted it without greed. This move really made Ron look at him with new eyes. When Ron was still worrying about how to give the money to Caroline legally without letting the debt collectors come to the door, he took the initiative to offer suggestions. Yes, that's right. It was Saul's idea to use crowdfunding donations to launder the money into Caroline's hands, and he was very conscientious and only charged a 15% handling fee. Don't think it's expensive, this is already a very conscientious price in the underground world. The method is as follows. Ron first tricked Caroline into making a crowdfunding donation video, and Saul was responsible for making the website. In order to make the debt collectors speechless, although the crowdfunding was in Caroline's name, it was Max's account. In Saul's words, the money belonged to Caroline and did not belong to Caroline. He was willing to provide all legal support as after-sales service. However, in order not to arouse suspicion, the money will be deposited into the crowdfunding account many times, using many different accounts. Ron admired everything he did, and even introduced Orlov to him, and decided to let him handle all related legal business in the future. Oh my god. I thought about letting Max apply for a credit card or a female loan in her name before, but I didn't expect the money to be. Caroline was so excited that she didn't know how to express herself, so Ron simply kissed her directly. Wow, after a long time, Caroline panted heavily and pushed Ron away with the last bit of her rationality. She was afraid that she could not help but push Ron down. So she had sex on the restaurant table. So, two beauties, can we go now? Alhan, can I ask for a day off for them today? Ron sighed that his lung capacity was still not good enough, and cast an inquiring look at Lihan. No, before Alhan could speak, Caroline shook Ron's arm and refused. First, even if you get rich, you don't have to lose your job unless the cake shop is on the right track, and today is the day for the lost and found box lottery, and there may be something useful in it. It must be said that Caroline really knows how to live. Even if she made a small fortune, she didn't forget to take advantage. The Lost and Found Box Lottery Day is an employee welfare activity of Williamsburg Restaurant, which takes out the lost items that have not been claimed for a month and distributes them to employees. Of course, the lost items that are not claimed are usually worthless trinkets, so when something special is mixed in, the person whose turn it is must try it out and let others take pictures. Okay, then I'll wait until you get off work, and I can go somewhere else first. This place is not far from Gallagher's house, so Ron will not have nowhere to go. Let's continue the game now. Okay, the first item is a hairband. Arhan reached into the box and took out a pink rubber band. Mine. Caroline grabbed it. Oh my god, I fell too fast. Oleg then took a lemon, If rich people do this, we usually call it thriftiness. The second item Han continued to touch things. It's a box of pregnancy test sticks. The box is empty. Max chewed gum and spread his hands. Why are you all looking at me? It just so happens that I have 2 minutes to spare. If I'm pregnant, I can test it. If I'm not pregnant, I can strengthen my body. But Ron noticed that Max's eyes stayed on him a little longer. Well, it's not my fault. Max asked for it. Ron wanted to find a hole to hide in. Fortunately, no one noticed that he and Max were abnormal. Then, after the embarrassment of having an empty wallet, there was finally something to try on. The last one is the wig that I have had for 6 consecutive months. Max started to make a noise. Ahan, it's your turn this time. Everyone except you has worn it, even I have taken pictures with this thing. You have to do the same thing. Caroline took out her phone, ready to take pictures at any time. Okay, I'm a funny boss. Han put on the wig, and Ron said hello and walked out after taking a photo as a souvenir. What will Caroline and Max do after getting the money? Ron knew that they would definitely find a place to open a store. But this area full of drug addicts is not a good choice. Unless Max sells marijuana-flavored cakes, otherwise the business will fail just like in the original Time and Space. Ron thought that the best place to open a store was in a relatively stable area, and it would be best if the income level in this area was relatively high, and the overall atmosphere was not so tense, so that everyone would have more time to taste the food. After thinking about it, Ron felt that Pasadena should be the best place. There are many colleges and universities here, and smart people gather together. IQ needs to consume sweets as fuel. The best thing is that this place is not as busy as Silicon Valley, and there are no particularly competitive stores here. If there are, Sheldon will definitely know. Ron took out his mobile phone, found a number and dialed it. Chapter 152, Parent-Teacher Meeting for Carl. Sol was really efficient. He had just finished selecting the store locations that Ron had requested in one day, and Ron was still sleeping with Caroline in his arms. As a man who had worked hard all night, it was normal for him to sleep until 10 in the morning. Just as Ron hung up Sol's call and was about to go back to sleep or do something else, his phone rang again. He looked at the contact and it was also a woman that Ron could not refuse. For the first time, Ron felt that he seemed to have owed too many romantic debts. What's the matter, Fiona? Ron put on his clothes and walked out of the room. Ron, can you go to school for me? Carl got into trouble again at school. He beat up his classmates. The school asked to ask his parents, but my father has not been found yet. You know, I'm not even sure if he is dead outside now. Fiona's voice sounded full of fatigue. Ron couldn't help but feel sorry for this girl and wanted to share some of the burden with her, but no matter what, she refused to accept Ron's money or the decent job he offered her. The reason was that she wanted to keep her whole self in front of Ron. What a lovely and innocent reason. So Ron could only do his best to arrange for her bastard father, who only knew how to stir up trouble, to work in a plantation through Uncle Fried Chicken. There was a 10-hour work system and no salary, but he was guaranteed to have enough food every meal. If he could quit his drug addiction there, he might be able to live a few more years. Ron felt that this was the right way to deal with the old scum. I guess you must still be working now, right? Where are you now? McDonald's or KFC? I told you a long time ago that you should quit that job. I can introduce you to a better job, which is not tiring and earns more, neither. It's at Fried Chicken Brothers, Fiona said happily. Don't worry, I will quit after this month. At least let me get this month's salary first. When did Fiona get to work for Uncle Fried Chicken? Ron felt that this might not be a good idea, but on second thought, Uncle Fried Chicken also had some serious business, so he simply gave up the idea of persuading her to change jobs immediately. Okay, where's the school? I'll go now. Ron thought that he had nothing to do now, so he simply agreed. Really? It's great that you can go. You don't know that Carl has always worshipped you as an idol. His previous dream was to become a policeman, but since he met you, his current dream is to become an agent like you. In less than an hour, Ron appeared at the gate of Carl's school. This is a public school, famous for its low tuition and fairly good teaching quality. Although it can't be compared with private schools, it can definitely be counted among the top public schools. Ron explained his purpose and was invited into the principal's office without any doubt. There were already 4 children with bruised faces and their parents in this room. What surprised Ron was that he actually ran into an acquaintance. Tucker, I didn't expect you to be here too. Is this your child? Where is he injured? Ron lowered his head and a little guy behind Tucker, who was slightly shorter than his age, caught his attention. This child's injury was not as obvious as other children. Here, Tucker lifted the kid's bangs, and there was an obvious bump on his forehead. Well, actually, his injury was not intentional by Carl. He had no conflict with the two parties in the fight, but was knocked down in the chaos. Hey, I said you should teach him something if you have the chance. Ron frowned. He could see that Carl must have been targeted by others, because the principal put the blame on Carl for such an innocent person. But this should actually be the fault of both parties, but the principal didn't mention it. Let me interrupt the politeness between you. Maybe you should sit back in your seat first. We didn't call you here today to reminisce about the past. Mr. Gallagher, the female principal, whose face was as dark as a black person, but whose race was clearly white, took Carl into the principal's office, opposite the round table. This seat was by the window, just facing all the other children and parents. If Ron didn't understand what she meant, then he would have been a spy for so many years in vain. Ron did not correct the headmistress's mistake in calling his last name, but pulled Carl to his side and sat him in the position indicated by the headmistress. He wanted to see what these people were up to. To be frank, your son Carl's behavior is the worst I have ever seen in this school, and I have been teaching in this school for a long time. Should I call you Dad now? Carl poked Ron secretly and whispered. Ron rolled his eyes. Stand still. Then he continued to listen to what the headmistress was going to say. He intimidated these students and made them come to me to complain in fear. School should not be a temple of terror. It should be a temple of learning. How can children learn in a place of terror? Of course not, a parent of a black child echoed. She is asking me, idiot. Ron glared at him fiercely, and the other party immediately shut up. Carl secretly gave him a thumbs up under the table. There's only one way to make Carl realize his mistakes, and that is to make him face up to his mistakes and apologize for what he did. The headmistress made the final decision, and Ron knew that this was going to be a final decision. The other parents and children looked very proud, as if they had won a great victory. Ron crossed his arms and looked around. Except for the little guy from the Tucker family, every other child looked stronger than Carl. Ron didn't know how Carl won, but he believed one thing, that is, under normal circumstances, no one would provoke someone who was several times stronger than him when he was at an absolute disadvantage. He felt that there must be something else behind this fight between the children. Considering the unwillingness in Carl's eyes when he walked in just now, and the look of relief that several children could not hide, Ron already had an idea in his mind. Ron put his arm on the table very rudely. So, what do you want me to do? He should apologize to every child here. Honestly and sincerely, it was the black parent who interrupted just now. Ron interrupted him rudely. Don't be hypocritical. Bullying is an important part of the school ecosystem. It teaches these little devils how to stand up from difficulties. The outside world is very cruel. Bullying is giving them a vaccination. These little devils of yours should learn to stay away from my son. Being punched in the face should learn something. I guarantee that your son will be surrounded by hot girls when he is 30 years old, while my son will wear prison clothes and pick up rags on the roadside before he is 30 years old. The more Ron spoke, the more smug the faces of the parents around him became. They almost had the intention to forgive Carl, but under the table, Carl had already clenched his fists. The Tucker child opened his mouth and hesitated to speak, but was immediately glared at by a big child and lowered his head. Ron could see that this was a kind child, but not strong enough. Perhaps Tucker should strengthen his education in this area in the future. At least, he should make this child more confident. Seeing everyone relax, Ron showed a mocking smile on his face. Do you think I would say that? You are such a group of childish people. Mr. Gallagher, we called you here today to ask for your attitude. Otherwise, you know that I have the power to suspend Carl at any time. The headmistress was so angry that she trembled all over. Ron leaned back on the chair calmly. Come on, don't you idiots have eyes? Can't you open your assholes and take a look? All children, stand up, Ron suddenly yelled unexpectedly, and all the children jumped up in shock. Ron stood up with satisfaction and pressed Tucker's son down first. You don't have to. Look, all of you look at me. Ron slapped the table and said, my son Carl is almost the smallest of all the children who fight. So what? The black parent whispered. Ron could see that this guy was definitely the leader among these people. Maybe he knew the embarrassing situation of the Gallagher family and thought he was fearless, so he joined other parents to put pressure on the school, which led to the current situation. Stand up, Ron slapped in front of the black parent. and the murderous aura on his body, which had been through war and almost condensed into substance, rushed towards him. The black parent was almost scared to death, and immediately stood up and let Ron do whatever he wanted. Ron came up to the black parent. He was almost a head taller than him, and his muscles were much stronger than before. This was all thanks to Ron's insistence on exercising no matter how tired he was when there was no task. Ron looked down at the trembling black parent. "Look, I am taller and stronger than you now. Do you have the urge to attack me?" The black parent took a step back silently, not daring to speak. Ron seemed to be not satisfied enough, and pushed the black parent hard on the chest. "Look, I am bullying you now, why don't you fight back?" "Fight back, bastard!" Ron's sudden outburst scared the principal and other parents. They sat in their seats in a daze, especially the other parents who had joined forces with the black parent, who lowered their heads like quails, fearing that they would meet Ron's fierce eyes. "Fight back, bastard!" Ron pushed again, and the black parent was almost broken by him. "Speak. Why don't you fight back?" "I dare not, I can't beat you." The black parent was forced to the wall, and could only shout desperately, trying to let Ron let him go. He was now full of regret. Did they say that there were no adults in Carl's little bastard's family, only a group of children in charge? Where did this ruthless character come from? Ron grabbed the black parent's collar and threw him back to his seat, facing everyone. Look, even this idiot knows not to fight with people who are stronger than you, otherwise you can only get hurt yourself." Ron pulled Carl up. "So, what makes you think that my son would attack several older children who are taller and stronger than him?" And regard this behavior as bullying. Everyone was silent, and the expression on the headmistress's face was wonderful, but Ron was in no mood to pay attention to this evil woman, and continued to pursue the victory. "Why aren't you talking? Speak up." Ron walked around the field, and every time he walked behind a person, that person couldn't help but feel a little nervous. "Tell me, what kind of reason would a child have to take the initiative to attack several children who are taller and stronger than him at the same time, and bully a group of people alone? Oh my God, can anyone tell me how he did it?" Tucker had been watching the show with his arms crossed from the beginning. This conflict had nothing to do with him, but at this moment, his thoughts were the same as everyone else's, that is, of course he did it like you. "Bastard. Aren't you bullying a group of people alone now?" "Sorry, Mr. Gallagher." The headmistress softened her tone and tried to smooth things over. The change of position was so fast that even Italy in World War II would call it an expert. "I think there may be some misunderstandings in this, and I didn't pay attention to these details in my previous work. I am willing to reinvestigate the matter and give you a reasonable explanation." Carl raised his head. At this moment, Ron's image in his eyes was sublimated again, as if it was coated with a layer of golden light. He thought that he would have to apologize to those people again today and then settle the matter. This had happened several times before, and he had gotten used to it. He had never thought that there would be a day when justice would be served. And this person was his idol. Carl felt that his admiration for Ron had deepened. "Misunderstanding," Ron continued to mock with a sarcastic tone. "Because of a misunderstanding, you can allow a group of children to bully a child and then use public power to harm him again. Madam, I think you have probably touched the bottom line of the law. Maybe my lawyer should know how to sue you." "Lawyer? Come on. With the Gallagher family's little wealth, when can they afford a lawyer?" This sentence emerged in everyone's mind at the same time, but intimidated by Ron's momentum, no one dared to say it out loud. But when someone thought about it and began to secretly look at Ron's clothes, they found that neither the handmade suit on his body nor the Rolex watch on his wrist could be afforded by ordinary people. It can be said that any piece of Ron's clothes could buy them a whole set. The headmistress was really terrified. She had seen important people before and knew that she could not afford to offend such people. "Don't call a lawyer. Please give me another chance. I promise to give you a satisfactory answer." "Oh? Really?" Ron returned to his seat, hugged his chest and looked like he was interrogating several prisoners by himself. "I happen to be not busy today. I will sit here and wait for your answer." Chapter 153, The End of the Agent Competition. Carl looked at Ron with such admiration that it was beyond words. Today's scene will remain in his mind forever and become the most precious memory of his life. It can even be said that what happened today reshaped his future life. Of course, under Ron's strong performance, the new result of the female headmaster's treatment came out immediately, and the group of children who took the initiative to cause trouble went home to reflect for a day. For elementary school students, this punishment was already heavy enough. The most rare thing was that Carl also received their apology. "Thank you, boss." The freckles on Carl's little face, which turned red due to excitement, became more obvious. "I've told you many times to call me boss." Ron patted Carl on the back of his head without boasting, and threw the keys into his arms. "You go back to the car first, I have something to talk about." As he said, Ron chased Tucker and his son out, because he saw that the woman who was chased by two idiots had come to the school gate at some point and was talking to Tucker. Tucker hugged his son. "This is my good friend Lauren." "I thought your only friend was Uncle Frank." "Who is Frank?" Lauren asked curiously. "Well, that's a friend of mine at work. Lauren is my new friend." Tucker avoided the question, but Lauren's expression was a little serious, which made him feel a little uneasy. "Can we talk? Without the child, or we can send the child to your ex-wife's house first." Ron, who was hiding behind the tree and eavesdropping, was moved. Is this going to be a showdown? He remembered his plot. It seemed that when this woman was about to show her hand, she was kidnapped by Heinrich, and then the story ended here. Ron, who was originally planning to approach and talk, turned around and went back to the car, and before that, he did not forget to suck a tracker under Tucker's car. "Carl, now I'm going to take you home, and then go do something. Are you going to kill people and rob? Or are you going to rob the robbers?" "Boss," Carl's face was full of excitement, "can I go with you? I promise to be obedient." "Okay, but this is a secret mission. You are not allowed to tell anyone after you go back, understand? Not even your sister." If Carl was an ordinary child, Ron would definitely not agree to his request, but is Carl ordinary? A guy who is cheered by all the prisoners when he is released from prison, even if he is in his juvenile form, is definitely not an ordinary person. What ordinary child can beat up several senior children by himself? "Listen, I will drive, and you will be responsible for navigation." Ron stuffed the receiver of the tracker into Carl's arms. "I heard that you also want to be an agent in the future, so I will take you to practice today." "Yes, boss," Ron pouted. He was too lazy to correct Carl's address. Tracking sounds cool, but it is actually a very boring thing, because you need to follow your target all the time, but you don't know where he is going. The most annoying thing is that you can't be discovered by the other party during this process. "Boss, why do we have to stay so far away from them?" Carl raised his head. There was no sign of the other car in front of him, only a light spot flashing on the tracker. Tucker's car had already turned right at the previous intersection. Although Carl had reminded him, Ron still chose to go straight. Remember the first lesson of tracking, rookie? Before the mission. Understanding that terrain can bring you an advantage comparable to foresight, Ron had just started to talk when Carl took out a small notebook, the one with Ron's quotations. For example, the road the other party took just now is a one-way street, and there is only one high-end restaurant on that road. At this time, it is almost certain that the other party's stop sign is there, so we don't need to follow them all the time, especially if the other party has sufficient anti-tracking experience. Understood, boss. Carl hurriedly wrote it down. Once again, if Carl's enthusiasm for learning in this area can be used in his homework, his future achievements will not be too bad. It can only be said that this child is born with a genius for going astray. As Ron said, Tucker drove the car to the restaurant. Not long after he walked in, another car followed closely and stopped at the door. Obviously, Ron was not the only one tracking Tucker. FDR got out of the car. "Sure enough, I shouldn't have expected anything from these two idiots." Ron covered his face. The two guys' spy skills were taught by Ron, but look at their level. They are not even as professional as Carl. It can be said that all their talents are in combat. See, these are two negative examples of success. I heard Fiona say that you also want to be an agent when you grow up. If one day you realize it, don't learn from these two idiots. They have made me lose face. Understand, boss. What do we do now? Wait for them to come out. Carl was eager to try. Waiting is one of the essential tasks for an agent, but before they come out, we can cause some trouble for those two idiots. Ron got out of the car and walked to the front of the car like a passerby. He stomped his foot on the ground hard, and a sharp blade came out from the front of his leather shoes. Ron punctured the tires of the two people without hesitation and returned to the car. Although Heinrich was indeed killed by the two in the movie, there are always unexpected things. Ron wanted to be foolproof. Soon, 3 black SUVs drove into the street and hid at the corner on the other side. When Lauren walked out of the restaurant angrily, 2 big men ran out of the car and took her into the car. "Wow. Boss, it's kidnapping. I know this best." My brothers taught me that when there is no money left at home, they will take me to kidnap a big hostage. Are we going to rob the robbers now? Carl screamed excitedly. Shut up. Ron was speechless about Carl's 3 views. Don't forget. We are the positive characters, and now we start to work. Ron stepped on the accelerator and followed. A red Ford pickup truck jumped out of the alley and bit tightly. This time he was not worried about being discovered by the other party, because he wanted to annihilate them all. Carl, can you drive? Carl said in distress. No problem, Philip taught me, but I'm too short, and I can't see the front if I step on the accelerator. No problem, as long as you can drive steadily, I'll direct you. Now take over. Ron put Carl's hand on the steering wheel, folded down the seat and rolled to the back row, dragging a box out from under the seat. The box was just a sway, and Ron took out an RPG from the space, carried it on his shoulder, and leaned out of the window. Not bad, kid, you can do it, just keep driving forward like this. Chapter 154, Silencing. Boss, we're being followed, Heinrich's men shouted in fear from his intercom. Is it those 2 stupid agents? Heinrich's mouth curled up with a hint of cruelty. You don't need to report such a trivial matter to me, just kill them directly, and then find a place to kill this stupid woman. No, it's someone I don't know. The voice of the men suddenly became terrified. He also has a rocket launcher. Fire. Idiot. FXXK. Fire, but it was too late. Before they could shoot back, Ron had already pulled the trigger, and an RPG rocket arrived in an instant. Boom, the SUV turned into a fireball and flew into the sky. Hit it to the left, and turn it straight now. Ron directed Carl to complete a beautiful tailspin to avoid a scrapped car in front, and reloaded the RPG again and leaned out of the window. The rocket launcher was aimed at the second car. Go to hell, kill him. However, the car in front was not to be outdone. 2 fearless men also leaned out of the car window to fight back, but the shaking car body restrained the performance. The bullets almost all hit the air, and Ron was unharmed. It was as if he was taking a ride. He continued to aim calmly and look for opportunities. The terrorists in the car in front were so scared that their palms were sweating. But the more nervous they were, the less accurate their shooting was. Not even Ron's hair was hurt. Tisk, this guy can get the name of an international terrorist. How weak is this name now? Ron sneered, questioning the level of the CIA again, and his fingers moved slightly. Boom, the second car was also lifted into the sky by Ron. And this time his shooting angle was very good. The rocket hit the left rear of the car. The explosive force directly pushed the car to the right side of the road. Carl didn't even need to turn to pass directly. Get out of the way. Ron threw away the rocket launcher and regained control of the car. Now Heinrich's side only had 1 car left. Ron could have used the RPG to send them to the sky, but unfortunately there were hostages in the car. What a pity. Ron couldn't help but envy his Russian counterparts. If this were in Russia, it would be great. Just fire another rocket to end the battle, and all the casualties of the hostages could be treated as normal losses. I heard that if they were a little cooler, they could even be treated as terrorist accomplices. Boss, what should we do now? Carl looked at the car on fire in the distance, his face full of excitement. In the past, car chases could only be seen in movies, but now he could actually participate in it himself. It was like a dream. What else can we do? Force their car to stop, then kill those bastards and rescue that stupid woman, Ron said unhappily. He was the worst at rescuing hostages. He's used up his rockets. Hurry. Get your guns out and kill him. Heinrich kicked his men in a rage. He was going crazy. He just wanted to come here for revenge, but he didn't expect that most of his most elite men would be killed in a few minutes. This is all his hard work. If Ron could hear his inner voice, he would probably laugh his teeth off. Elite? That's it? Da-da. People stretched out from both sides of the SUV, holding rifles and starting to shoot at Ron. Ron immediately pressed Carl's head down, and then he turned the steering wheel and dodged the bullets through one coquettish move after another. Despite this, Ron's front windshield was still broken. Boss. What should we do in this situation? Carl's voice was not only not afraid, but full of excitement. Ron finally determined that this kid was born to eat this bowl of rice. Even if he didn't become an agent, he would definitely go further and further on the road of crime and become a big man who is no less than Uncle Fried Chicken. Second lesson of the agent class, Ron was certainly not nervous. He held the steering wheel with one hand and quickly pulled out the M500 high-powered revolver from his waist with the other hand. Bang! Bang! 2 shots, the heads of the 2 terrorists exploded like watermelons. Carl didn't even see Ron's shooting action clearly, and the 2 were gone. The gun in Ron's hand was put back into the holster like a magic trick, as if it had never been moved. Second lesson of the agent's small class, shooting. As long as you have a good shooting skill, you can do whatever you want and do whatever you want on the battlefield. Ron was not afraid of leading the children astray, and he spoke freely. Boss, your shooting skill is awesome. Carl's eyes turned into stars. Can you teach me your shooting skill? Carl's appearance reminded him of himself in the past. He also learned shooting skill from an old man with infinite longing. At that time, he was about the same age as Carl now. Of course, as long as you can endure hardships, there is no other trick to shooting skill, only hard practice. When the shells you have fired are piled up and are taller than you, you can be considered a decent gunman. Old Jack said so, and so did Ron, as if they had completed a legacy across time and space. No problem, Carl nodded heavily and made up his mind. I can buy all my future salary into bullets, no need to do that. I'm planning to rent the warehouse next to the company and turn it into a shooting range. I can shoot for free, Ron said indifferently. The car in front of him fled in panic and immediately drove the car to a deserted road under repair. Ron finally found a chance to get off the car. He stepped on the accelerator to the bottom and suddenly pulled out his gun when he was madly approaching. Bang bang, the front 2 rear tires were blown up, shaking violently left and right, and the rear of the car dragged a long string of sparks on the ground. Ron seized the opportunity, turned the steering wheel to the end, and hit the rear of the car hard. He did an American-style interception and directly stopped the car on the side of the road. Don't look up, Ron pushed Carl into the seat, took out the gun and got out of the car, while Heinrich and his only remaining man had already dragged Lauren down. Damn it, don't come over here, the man pointed his gun at Ron tremblingly as if he had seen a ghost. He was very scared. He had never seen someone with such a weird shooting skill. Heinrich hid himself behind Lauren, one hand hooked around her neck, the other hand pointed a gun at her. Put down your weapon now and kneel down beside me. Ron showed a harmless smile. Do you mind getting your pretty face dirty? Damn it. I'm not kidding you. Drop your weapon. Quick, Heinrich shouted from behind the woman. I'm not talking to you. Ron's gentlemanly words sounded like the call of Satan, his warm eyes staring into Lauren's eyes. Madam, do you mind if I get your pretty face dirty? Lauren, who was being strangled by Heinrich, couldn't speak, and could only shake her head with difficulty. At the moment her head shook. Ron also moved. Bang! It was clearly 2 gunshots, but because the time was too close, it sounded like one. The 2 headless bodies fell stiffly, and Lauren, who had survived the disaster, had no time to respond before a sticky liquid smeared her face. When she found out what it was, a shrill scream made Ron's eardrums hurt. Chapter 155 Business Trip to France. Mom, can you please stop for a moment? Ron covered his ears, wondering how this woman could scream for so long. Of course, if the law allowed, he would rather use the last 12.7 pistol bullet left in the magazine to blow up the woman's head. Is that blood on my face? Lauren was too scared to look at the sticky stuff on her hands. She half closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and shouted to Ron in horror. Not entirely, Ron smiled mischievously. In addition to blood, there is also some brain matter. Lauren screamed again. Calm down, Mom. This is actually a traditional Chinese food, tofu pudding. There is no difference. It is said that there are sweet and salty parties for this food. Which flavor do you prefer? Isn't brain generally salty? Carl got off the car at some point. I heard from a Chinese neighbor that he ate pig brains. I also want to try it once. There are not only salty ones, but also spicy ones. If you can convince your sister to come, I can invite you to try the Chinese cuisine that has this dish, hot pot. In addition, we can order an extra tofu pudding as a side dish. Mom, do you want to come with us? I can also help you order a tofu pudding. I usually like sweet ones. What flavor do you want? Ron stood there, talking about the sweet and salty tofu pudding party dispute to a lady who had just been hijacked and covered in blood and brains. It looked particularly funny. Fortunately, the 2 idiots Tucker and FDR who were worried about Lauren finally arrived, otherwise Ron guaranteed that the woman would faint in 10 minutes. Boss, you are really great. When can you teach me how to shoot? Ron simply said hello, leaving the mess to the 2 of them to clean up. and drove away with Carl. It's nothing. As long as you practice hard, you will be able to be like me in the future. Have you ever touched a gun before? Ron asked while driving. Of course, Philip, Ian and I occasionally practice under the bridge. There is the sound of trains over there, which can completely cover up the sound of gunfire. Even if we kill someone there, no one will notice, so we can kidnap the hostage. Carl is indeed a genius child in the field of crime. He can immediately shift the topic from shooting to how to carry out a perfect robbery. Ron feels that his educational task is arduous and long. Stop. Ron couldn't bear it anymore and interrupted Carl's genius plan. He couldn't let him continue. If he continued, he would want to give Buffett or Bill Gates a blow. From today on, you are not allowed to watch those gangster movies. Also, from now on, watch an episode of In the Garden Babies for me every day. In the Garden Babies? Isn't that a stupid fairy tale for children? Can you learn shooting by watching that? Carl was confused. No, I just want Macabacca to cleanse your sinful soul. As soon as he arrived at the Gallagher's door, Ron couldn't wait to kick little Carl out. Ron breathed a sigh of relief in the car. The world was finally quiet, but just as he was about to drive home, the phone rang again. The caller was Orlov. What's the matter? Ron said unhappily. Of course, congratulations on solving our problem. You did a good job. It was obvious that Orlov had learned what Ron had just done through his information channels. Of course it's good, but remember, you owe me one more time. Of course, how about I adjust the share ratio of our partnership business? From now on, you get 70% and I get 30%. That's right. Ron nodded with relief. Finally, his hard work in the past few days was not in vain. But there's still a small problem, Orlov said hesitantly, just like the NPC in the game who specifically gives tasks to the protagonist. Ron immediately had a bad premonition. You didn't get into any big trouble again? Ron took a deep breath. Of course not, Ron just exhaled, and halfway through, Orlov's next speech almost choked him to death. It's just that the big toy that was lost in France was secretly sold by my people to a local gang, FXXK. Are you still not busy enough for me? Ron was mad. If you were by my side now, I promise to shoot you. Do you believe it? There is nothing easier than silencing you. Of course I believe it, but I believe that going to France to settle this matter would be a better choice for you, right? In fact, this is also what Mr. Francis meant, as if he was afraid that Ron would not believe it. He added, otherwise, do you think that with my strength, I have the opportunity to sell something of this level? But now Mr. Francis is also regretting it. Ron believed it. Francis has recently had the idea of running for the next president, so he has been seeking support from external forces. He used his power to help illegal politicians in Eastern Europe build a black industry chain in exchange for support. It is a sure win business. Ron had no choice but to ignore it. His interests were deeply tied to Francis and Orlov. I'll go to France again to see if there's a chance to get us out of this matter. If you know any killers there, you can have them start the action. I contacted Leon, but a girl answered the phone. I suspect his line is broken. Apart from him, there's no other killer I can trust there. You mean the guy who likes to grow flowers? I've said it before, he's too old and should retire. Okay, prepare a private plane for me. I'll go there tomorrow. Ron thought about it and finally agreed. For safety reasons, he called Francis again to get a chance to go on a business trip to France at public expense. Francis didn't ask him why he was going to France, and Ron didn't ask him if he was related to this incident. Everything went so smoothly, as if it should be so, but in fact, they knew each other tacitly. On the outskirts of Paris, Ron, who took a private plane, finally landed after a 15-hour flight. Unexpectedly, the person Orlov arranged to pick him up at the airport was a strange little girl holding a plant. It's just that the plant in the little girl's arms looked very familiar. Is this Dieffenbachia? I remember a friend of mine also liked to grow this plant, although I told him that it was just an oil crop, Ron said meaningfully. I know, this is Leon's, he mentioned you to me. The black-haired girl had sad but firm eyes, and she stretched out her hand to Ron. I took the initiative to apply to be your guide. I want to know more about Leon. No problem. Ron did not hand the luggage to the little girl, but dragged it behind her, saying as he walked, but you may not know, when I knew him, he was not called Leon, but Ruby, the poor guy who avenged his wife. He is no longer here, right? No, he has always been here. The girl carefully placed the evergreen in her arms on the seat and opened the trunk. My name is Matilda. What's your name? Ron. Nice to meet you. Ron put the luggage in. We will have plenty of time to talk about Ruby's affairs later. First of all, I want to know, which district in Paris is the most chaotic? I think it will be faster to start from the most chaotic place. Those desperados generally have slow brain development, and they don't know what they got. They may think it's just a more powerful firework, but they never thought that this firework might cost him and the lives of the entire city. Ron was about to get on the driver's seat, but Matilda got there first. Ron could only sit in the back seat because there was a pot of plants on the passenger seat. As Ruby, one of Leon's friends, he certainly knew what this meant, so he certainly had no intention of competing with a dead person for a seat. If you say the most chaotic place in Paris, it must be the 13th district. Matilda started the car. Due to the massive increase in crime in the suburbs, the city hall simply built a high wall there to isolate those criminals. Now it seems that the place is dominated by gangs. In fact, it is also our largest source of customers. People like you can't survive a day there. People like me. Ron didn't expect to be looked down upon by Matilda right away. What kind of person am I in your eyes? A well-dressed beast. Matilda stuffed a piece of gum into her mouth, and put the remaining pieces back before Ron reached out, and Saheo had no intention of sharing with him. I didn't say that, Leon said that. Although you said he used to be called Ruby, I still think Leon sounds better. Ron snatched a piece of gum from Matilda's pocket and stuffed it into his mouth. While chewing, he said provocatively, then I think he must have told you how powerful I am, and what you call powerful is to eat food given by a stranger you just met. Matilda smiled, and the road became more and more desolate. How is it? Do you feel dizzy now? Ron looked at her blankly, but his eyelids became heavier and heavier, and finally closed his eyes and lay down on the back seat. Tisk, he's just a reckless man who can only shit randomly. Matilda parked the car on the side of the road and took out her mobile phone. Mr. Orlov, I refuse to act with this idiot you sent. Although you and Leon both praise him, in my opinion, click with a crisp sound. Matilda felt a chill on the back of his head, and a cold gun barrel was pressed against the back of his head. What do you think, little girl? Ron sat up from the back seat with a mischievous smile on his face. Impossible. You ate my gum, how could you not faint? PFFT, Ron spat out a piece of gum wrapped in a small plastic bag. Come on, can you girls try something new? It's always the same trick. Do you think that agents are idiots like the gangsters you have seen before? After saying that, Ron spit out another mouthful of saliva. Although he brought strawberry flavor, which girls like the most, it felt weird for a man to put this kind of thing in his mouth. Not to mention the grease on it. Ugh, so disgusting. There was no way. This was the only one he had on him. He originally planned to use it with Max, but out of the vigilance of an agent, Ron had to act first to confirm Matilda's motives before taking the next step. Who knows if she has betrayed him? Or someone else offered a higher price? Fortunately, Matilda saved herself by calling Orlov, otherwise Ron would have planned to shoot. It seems that you have already had a preliminary understanding of each other. I believe you are satisfied with each other. Come on. I am optimistic about your actions. Orlov hung up the phone. Let me introduce myself again. My name is Ron Lee Cooper, the most powerful agent in the IRS. I believe you agree with this statement now, right? Ron put the gun back into the holster. Matilda nodded with difficulty. Is this the strength of a professional agent? It's really amazing. Leon really didn't lie. Okay, now, let's continue our previous topic. You are talking about the 13th district, right? What is the specific situation there? It is the most chaotic place in Paris. All criminals live there. Drug transactions can even be carried out in broad daylight. Even the police are helpless against them and never dare to go in. While Matilda was talking about the cause of the 13th district, Lito, who killed the former police chief of the 13th district, was pushed into a prisoner transport car. Before he could guess where the next stop was, a prisoner who was being escorted by 4 policemen and was still being tormented was also pushed into the car. Prisoner number 713 has boarded the car. The prison guard cursed and sat on the co-pilot. Damn it, he even bit me. Let's go now. The car drove out of the prison, and the prisoner who was beaten to death sat up, spit out a wire from his mouth, and opened his handcuffs very skillfully. Are you okay? Lito asked. It couldn't be better. Prisoner number 713 looked back at the guards and found that they didn't notice the movement inside. He gently put the handcuffs on the ground and continued to fiddle with the lock on the back door with the wire. These idiots thought they could lock me up, but I'll be out soon. Do you think you can open the lock with a thing? Leto looked doubtful. You don't know my ability yet. I will surprise you later. Let alone wire, even instant noodles, I can open the door of an entire community. Prisoner number 713 continued to brag. How did you get in? Leto asked casually. In fact, he had begun to doubt this completely abnormal prisoner and this abnormal escort method. Do you really think it's my first time in prison? Can't you even act it out? How can there be only 2 people escorting prisoners to transfer to other prisons? In addition to the driver, the other person also sat directly in the front, which was a clear opportunity for him to escape. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 156, Violent Neighborhood. Soon, the policeman, who played the role of a criminal, not only opened the car door, but also neatly threw the 2 prison guards out of the car, and brought his guide, Leto, to the 13th district, which was feared by Parisians. But before he could feel proud, Leto handcuffed him to the steering wheel swiftly, ruthlessly exposed his identity, and found the gun he had hidden and pointed it at his head. You are a policeman, but you are a little smart. The policeman drove while yelling at Leto. Let me go first. Didn't you want me to bring you here? Leto was unmoved. Now that you are here, you can look at your police officer manual and find a way to see what to do in this situation. Leto, I am really not a policeman. Let me go quickly. You can get out of prison because of me. You can't do this to me, the policeman yelled after struggling twice but failed to break free. But the so-called escape was just a show for Leto to see. While Leto was observing the situation outside, he had already inserted the wire into the keyhole of the handcuffs and secretly unlocked it. I don't give a FCK about a policeman, Leto yelled at the policeman. He didn't like the policeman at all. He was in jail because of the policeman. He and his sister sent the biggest drug dealer in Block 13 to the police station, but they were locked up and his sister was taken away from the police station by the drug dealer boss. Is there anything more ridiculous in the world than this? He could only vent all his anger on the head of Block 13. The undercover policeman wanted to try harder. Wait, don't you want to save your sister? I will save my sister myself. Leto didn't even turn his head. Leto was about to leave, but the policeman had already opened the handcuffs, and with a backhand, he grilled him on the railing. I don't understand. How did you know I was a policeman? The way you act, your skills, and the fact that you are clean. If you were a gangster, I would be able to tell at a glance. Leto had no choice but to give an answer. What are you talking about? Hate. The policeman helplessly spread his hands. Sorry, I haven't learned it yet. I have only learned freedom, equality, and fraternity. Haha, you can ask the people in this block. Who cares about this? Leto leaned on the railing nonchalantly. Do you know what I am doing here? There is a big bomb in this damn place. It is a nuclear weapon lost by the military not long ago. It has been activated. If I can't dismantle it within 2 hours, this damn place will be blown up by that thing. Now you know what you should do, right? On the other side, with the help of Matilda, Ron also sneaked into Block 13 and came to the building opposite Taha, the big drug dealer who is most likely to get the big guy. It must be said that this place really opened his eyes. For the first time, he knew that there was really a place surrounded by high walls not far from the capital, as the embodiment of sin, isolated from the world. I say, is there no one to manage this place? Where are the police? What do the police do? These capitalists can really play such tricks, which simply refreshed Ron's 3 views. Police? Did you know that the last police station here was closed half a year ago? Matilda showed a sarcastic smile on her face. I even think that being born here is a mistake. I also asked Leon, is life only so difficult in childhood, or has it always been like this? I guess his answer must be that life has always been like this. Ron showed a smile at the corner of his mouth. This guy has always been the worst at making girls happy. Matilda retorted, it's better than being slick. Ron did not continue to dwell on this topic. He had been using a telescope to observe the situation on the opposite side openly. Is the old man who looks like a hairless monkey the famous Taha here? He doesn't seem to be a big deal, just like my old principal who is incontinent and sitting in a wheelchair, but I guess he can probably go to the toilet by himself. Oh my god, what did I see? Who is the woman tied with a dog chain at his feet? Matilda took the telescope and frowned slightly. That seems to be Lola, Leto's sister. He is very famous in this area. Are you sure that's not an accomplice of the Taha group? After getting Matilda's affirmative answer, Ron rubbed his hair in annoyance. Damn it, it was clear that a rocket could solve the problem, but now it seems that we still need a plan. Are you crazy? Use a rocket? Don't you know that there is a big guy in there that can raise the entire city to the ground? Matilda was shocked. Don't worry, unless this big guy activates his own detonation device, even if you detonate an ordinary bomb next to him, it may not be able to detonate it together. This is common sense, okay, but before you do that, we have to rescue her first. Matilda was moved with sympathy. Ron had a strange smile on his lips. No wonder he felt a special sense of familiarity since he came to France. When he saw Matilda, he only thought of the plot of Leon, the professional, but he didn't remember it all of a sudden. This plot is not a violent neighborhood. For example, where did the nuclear weapon storyline come from in Leon, the professional? If Ron remembered correctly, the nuclear bomb was a conspiracy of the French authorities. The purpose of transporting it from the beginning was to make it lost, so that it would be snatched by these self-righteous drug dealers to the 13th block and then detonated. It must be said that this was a very cruel plot to completely eliminate this cancer next to the capital from this world. It was a pity that Orlov, who was unaware of the situation, got involved and dragged himself into it. In this way, this thing is actually not dangerous, as long as the policeman doesn't go crazy and really enter the dismantle code. Ron was deeply impressed by this movie. This movie can be said to be the first real Parker movie. In his previous life, Ron practiced Parker for 2 months because he watched this movie, and he stopped only when he almost broke his leg. Wait! Ron suddenly realized a problem. If everything developed according to the original plot, then Ron's trip would basically be in vain. He only needed to check in the romantic city of Paris and enjoy his vacation. The protagonist would solve everything. However, if he joined in and provided some help to the boy who was good at Parker, or even helped him rescue his sister, would Ron, who had won Leto's favor, be able to develop the skill of Parker? This was a skill that he had been thinking about since his previous life. Ron's eyes turned and he immediately had an idea in his mind. His face changed and he said firmly, "Of course, we must rescue her." Matilda was a little surprised. She thought Ron would refuse her request on the pretext of the mission. She was even prepared to act alone to rescue Lola. Really? Do you have any plan? Look, Ron pointed down. Downstairs next door, a gangster with the word K2 shaved on his head with a razor led 2 sturdy men out of the building. If I'm not mistaken, one of those 2 people is the leader you mentioned. Yes, the one with hair. Matilda nodded worriedly. If he's as powerful as you say, I don't think those ordinary drug dealers can trap him, and I can save the girl by sneaking in from the top of the building over there. Ron pointed to the unfinished building on the other side, which was taller. The distance from the building to the building occupied by the drug dealers was nearly 20 meters, which was definitely not a limit that humans could jump over. Not only humans. All animals could not jump so far. Are you kidding? Matilda said angrily. How is it possible from over there? No one can jump so far. If you don't want to save people, I can go by myself. Give me 10 minutes, or you can go buy me a cup of coffee. When you come back, I promise to show you how I got there. Ron did not intend to argue with her, but just pointed to the sneakers on his feet, leaning. Everything is possible. What a boastful guy. Matilda snorted heavily, turned around and left to buy coffee for Ron. She wanted to see how Ron would make up for his boast. After Matilda left, Ron immediately climbed up to the unfinished building, opened the suitcase, took out the drone, tied one end of the rope under the drone, and flew the drone over remotely, tying a loose sailor buckle on the railing on the top of the opposite building. Then he pulled the rope here and completely fixed it. The height he was now at was 3 floors higher than the roof of the drug dealer's building. Ron tied the other end of the rope firmly to the load-bearing beam, picked up a discarded steel bar, bent it into a U-shape and hung it on the rope. A simple zip line was completed immediately, and after doing all this, Matilda just came back. Oh my god, how did you do all this? Ron pointed to the drone on the opposite building. If you also have a gadget like this, I believe you can do it too, but how do you get back? Ron picked up another rope and tied one end to his waist. Go down 6 floors, I'll let you hang the rope, just help me tie the other end, and I'll soon slide the girl down the rope to you. Matilda nodded. Lola and the drug dealer leader Taha were on the top floor together. Ron could easily rescue the girl by sliding over along the already built cableway. Then he tied the rope on his waist to that side and connected it to the side controlled by Matilda, and instantly completed a return passage. Ron estimated that if there were not too many guards on the opposite top floor, the entire rescue process would not even take 5 minutes. Now, let me see what weapons you prepared for me. Olive should have told you, right? I need a light gun with a fast firing rate. Matilda nodded and handed him her box. Because you came too fast, I only had time to find this. Ron opened the box, and a delicate black gun was quietly lying at the bottom of the box. It was the famous MP5 submachine gun, and with it, there were 5 magazines full of bullets. Using German guns to cause trouble on French territory? I like it. Ron pulled a bolt to check that it was okay, then hung it on his body, and then put the 5 magazines and 3 grenades on his body. Well, let's start. Matilda ran down the building, and Ron felt the rope on his waist being gently pulled twice, and then he grabbed the U-shaped steel bar and jumped up. His whole body was affected by gravity and flew quickly to the opposite building. As the distance got closer, Ron saw that in addition to the old man who looked like a hairless monkey, there were 4 fierce bandits holding assault rifles guarding the room. However, they were all in a trance, looking at Lola, who was like a poor puppy on the ground, and occasionally scratching their itchy crotch when the boss was not paying attention. However, the scratching lasted for a long time and could not stop. No one noticed Ron, who was getting closer and closer. Ron sneered, "Go to hell, bastards." Ron pulled the trigger and fired into the room. The sound of bang 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 sounded, and the 2 guards were shot into sieves in an instant. "Enemy attack," a guard shouted and prepared to fight back, but Ron shot him away before he even saw where he was. At the moment he started shouting, Taha, who seemed to be asleep on the chair, had already turned over and rolled under the table. "Look, what is professionalism? No wonder he can be the boss." Seeing that the rope was running out of space, Ron let go of his hand in the air, and with the momentum of the rush, he opened the window with a ping sound, and rolled on the ground to stand up. The last guard left in the room just reacted, and raised his gun in panic. Before he could shoot, he was knocked down by a burst of gunfire from Luo Chang. With a crisp sound, the MP5 bullets were empty. Ron just pulled out a magazine, and Taha, who was hiding under the table, suddenly jumped out from under the table with a pistol. "Be careful." Before Lola's words of warning fell, Ron threw the empty magazine over and hit Taha in the eye. The pain was so severe that he could only close his eyes and shoot blindly. Bang bang, he shot 2 shots in a row, and each shot missed. When he was about to fire the 3rd shot, he suddenly felt a pain in his leg. Lola bit his calf without knowing when. "Get out. Bitch." Taha turned the muzzle of the gun and was about to blow Lola's head off, but a cold gun barrel was already on his head. Ron's cold voice exploded in his ears. "Let go, bitch, don't be impulsive, my friend, I have a lot of money. No matter what kind of business you are in, I believe I can satisfy you, as long as you spare my life." "A lot of money? How much money?" Taha showed joy on his face. Talking about money meant there was still hope. "I have almost some in a Swiss bank." Bang! Before he finished speaking, Ron had already pulled the trigger. "No matter how much money it is, I'm not interested." Chapter 157 The Way of Reasoning. "Taha probably has 20 million in savings," Laura said seriously. "Euros? How much did you say?" Ron turned his head in astonishment. 20 million euros, it's just a small amount of money. I don't care at all, not at all." Although Ron's heart was bleeding, he was still trying to be strong. "Do you still have the strength to hold the handle by yourself?" Ron tied one end of the rope to the heating pipe and carried Laura to the windowsill. Laura nodded gently. "Then go. Someone will pick you up over there." "You won't come with me." "Of course not. I still have to give these scumbags a gift. By the way, get back the 20 million euros I lost." Ron thought to himself. After saying that, Ron loosened his hand and Laura slid over along the zipline. At this time, the men guarding outside had already discovered something was wrong, but Ron had just dealt with the people in the room and locked the door from the inside. They could only bang on the door. Ron fired at the door until he had used up all 4 magazines. The door of Taha's office had been beaten into a sieve, hanging precariously on the door frame. It could be easily pushed down with just a little force. Ron knew it, and the drug dealers outside knew it too. Through the hole in the door, Ron saw a big foot kicking the door open. But just before they kicked the door, Ron had already pulled the safety of 2 grenades and threw them out at the moment the door was kicked down. Ron had a very good grasp of the angle of the grenades flying out. They hit the wall behind them almost at the same time and bounced into the corridor at an angle of nearly 60 degrees. Boom! The corridor was engulfed in flames, and Ron picked up a rifle that he had just guarded on the ground and walked out. Sure enough, there was no living creature in the corridor. Tisk, there's not a single person who can fight. Ron couldn't hide the deep disappointment in his eyes. Compared with the drug dealers in the United States, these French drug dealers were killed in seconds, without even the most basic tactics. Of course, it may also be because the popularity of guns here is not as strong as in the United States. In the slums of the United States, there is at least one gun per capita. Almost every child grew up in street gang gunfights and was familiar with these basic tactical knowledge from a young age. Ding ding ding, footsteps sounded on the stairs. It sounded like more than one person. Ron directly shrank into the reverse angle of the staircase exit. For people going upstairs, this place is basically equivalent to a visual blind spot. Ta-ta-ta-ta, as soon as the person under the stairs appeared, he was taken away by Ron's burst of shots. By the way, he pulled out the last grenade in the safety and threw it down casually. It's a grenade. Get back, bang! Before the smoke from the grenade had dissipated, Ron's figure jumped out of the smoke. The unprepared gangsters were caught off guard by Ron and were swept down by the rifle. I'm starting to feel bored. After clearing the insects on another floor, Ron had already walked to the first floor and said to himself. It took him a little over half an hour to fight his way from the top floor to the bottom floor. This group of hooligans basically had no other tricks except for the crotch-covering shooting. There was really no one who could fight. Ron estimated that only the guy with K2 written on his head had some fighting ability. Ron. Matilda saw that Ron actually walked out of the building peacefully, and ran over with Lola, who had just recovered a little. What did you do? They actually let you walk out like this? They didn't let me out at first, but I talked to them and they were moved by my reasoning and let me out like this. Ron shrugged and said easily. Reason? Impossible, Matilda said in disbelief. What on earth did you tell them? Taha's men are the most violent guys in this neighborhood. There's no way they'll let you get out so easily. Maybe your way of reasoning is wrong. Maybe you should try to reason with them with this thing next time. Ron pulled out the empty magazine with a click and threw it behind him, then took out a new magazine and loaded it in. These were all the spoils of the fierce battle he had just fought in the building. You killed them all. Matilda covered her head. There are more than 100 of his men in this building. More than 100? Maybe you remembered it wrong. Ron pouted doubtfully. I remember I only killed more than 50 people in total. Ron counted again in his mind. That's right, 56, and that's the result even if Taha was counted. The others may have gone after my brother. Lola, who had been silent, suddenly spoke up. I just saw a few cars driving out of the building. Your brother. Ron's interest grew. Where do you think he'll go? I don't know, but I know he should be with that policeman. Lola shook her head in confusion. Here, Ron handed her a cell phone. You may be able to call him. There's my number on the phone. My name is Ron. I admire your brother's skills. If he's willing, he can come to the United States to work for me. I forgot to mention it at the end. My name is Ron. I'm affiliated with the IRS department. This time I'm here to collect taxes from the Taha gang for their drug transactions in the United States. Ron made up a random excuse and immediately frightened Lola, who knew nothing. Only Matilda behind him stared at Ron's back with a suspicious look on her face. Aren't you here to execute the execution of silencing? But she was smart not to say it. Anyway, Taha was dead, and no one would ever know this secret. Okay, my mission is complete. See you next time. After saying that, Ron left with Matilda without looking back. Wait? Don't we have to worry about that big guy? Matilda was confused by Ron's haphazard operation. Did Lola just say that? An undercover policeman has gone with his brother to deal with it, Ron said indifferently. Now this is no longer my trouble, but France's trouble. Understand? Ron smiled cunningly. I used to think that Orlov's supplier was crazy and dared to rob the army's nuclear weapons and sell them, but think about it, for such a big thing, France actually sent an undercover policeman to deal with it. Do you think this is reasonable? For such a thing, in any country, at least special forces would be dispatched to handle it carefully as if facing a major enemy. But what is France doing now? Matilda thought thoughtfully. What do you mean? I mean, they deliberately threw that big guy, with the purpose of sending the thing to this place, and then boom. Chapter 158 Visiting Relatives. It was already night when Ron returned to his apartment. He had slept for almost a whole day on the plane. When he pushed open the door of Sheldon's apartment, the geek scientist group and Penny were sitting neatly on the sofa, staring at the beautiful girls on the TV screen, motionless, as if they were under a spell. Of course, there was an exception, and that was Sheldon, who completely ignored the beautiful legs and big breasts on TV and continued to spell the strange language that sounded like a cough. No one even noticed that Ron had entered the door. "Hi. What show are you watching?" "Oh, Ron, you're finally back." Penny stood up and hugged him enthusiastically. "Did you forget to pay for our cable TV before you left?" "Dear, I don't plan to pay it in the future. Anyway, I usually don't watch cable TV. You're always watching it. Besides, I'm not your dear, but there are at least 2 people sitting over there who would be happy to be your dear." Rajesh leaned over to Howard's ear and whispered in dissatisfaction. Howard pushed him away. "How do I know who he said is the person who is not interested in Penny? If you don't act so gay, maybe it's not you." Ron broke free from Penny and found a place to sit down. "What show are you watching?" "America's Next Top Model. Tyra Banks is about to kick someone out." "That's right, Ron. Guess who I found? The future Mrs. Wolowitz." Howard pointed at a supermodel on TV and shouted happily. "Yes, that's right. They can all move in with you and your mother." Leonard seized the opportunity and quickly complained. "The current Mrs. Wolowitz, haha, and the current Mrs. Wolowitz may be as tall as the future Mrs. Wolowitz when she lies down." "Yes, I mean her belly." Ron also joined in the ridicule of Howard. But Howard was in no mood to pay attention to these cold words and ridicules. His heart was already firmly captured by the charming girl on TV. "Why is the future Mrs. Wolowitz crying?" "That's Anais. The other girls in the room don't like her," Penny explained. "Room? What room?" Howard keenly grasped the key words. "They all live in the same room, which is the dormitory for the girls participating in the America's Next Top Model contest." Ron unscrewed the water Leonard had just brought him and said casually, "Somewhere in Los Angeles. They asked me to do a safety test for them when they moved in." "Wait. Are you saying that I can just drive to this residence full of these big-bodied supermodels?" Howard showed a lewd expression and muttered, "They live together, bathe together, and I'll take a call." The phone rang, and Ron interrupted Howard's even more lewd speech and left his seat. "Mom, what's up?" The caller was Mary in Texas. "I heard you went on vacation in France. How was your trip?" Mary's tone sounded relaxed. Ron secretly glanced at Sheldon. He was still concentrating on spelling. It seemed that he hadn't reported anything bad recently. Ron was relieved. "Very good. I also bought some souvenirs and mailed them back to you and George. They will probably arrive in a week." "Well, thank you in advance. I would be even happier if you can visit your Uncle Pritchett's house when you have time recently," Mary said. "Do you know? If Missy hadn't told me, I wouldn't have known that you haven't visited your Uncle Pritchett yet." As soon as the words came out, Ron's face fell and he felt unwell. Pritchett was Mary's brother and the eldest son of her grandmother. "Yes, you are right. Mary's last name before marriage was Pritchett, and she changed her last name to Cooper after marriage with George." The reason why Ron felt bad was that Uncle Pritchett's daughter Claire, the rebellious middle school girl, was often taken in by Ron when she was in school, so there was some unhappiness between the two. "I know about you and Claire. You did have some unhappy things when you were in school, but I think after so many years, she won't blame you for such a small matter. After all, she is already the mother of 3 children. I think, even as an uncle, you should go to visit." Okay, I surrender." Ron had no way to refuse Mary's request. "How about I go there next week?" "No, I think you'd better go tomorrow. Claire took the initiative to invite you. I guess she may have something to ask you. If I can help, I think you should help her. She is also your sister, cousin." Ron complained silently. It was rare for Ron to agree, so Mary didn't go into Ron's words. "By the way, don't bring Sheldon. Don't worry, even if you ask Sheldon to go, he won't go. He doesn't like being with children the most, let alone 3 children." "Is there anything else you want to tell him?" Ron asked. If there was nothing, he should think about what gifts to bring. It's not a good habit to go to someone's house empty-handed for the first time. Ron is not the idiot Sheldon. Come to think of it, Ron actually has a slight feeling of envy towards Sheldon now. He only needs to live in his own world, and everyone around him is taking care of him. If he can live such a life, it seems to be a kind of happiness. By the way, Pritchett has married a new wife, who is only in her 20s and has a child. "Don't forget to give the little girl a gift," Mary murmured. An old man in his 50s actually married a woman in her 20s. Can you imagine this? George, it's really too sinful. Poor old George quickly agreed, but for some reason Ron clearly heard. I'm so envious, this is normal. Uncle Pritchett has a well-run company, which is very attractive to those young girls. My dad can't do that. He's just a college football coach and he only has $200 in pocket money every month. There's no chance at all. Okay, let's not talk about this. Anyway, don't forget to bring a gift for the new little girl. Let me think about the rest. Mary thought for a while. Oh, by the way, it's best not to talk to him about topics like homosexuality. You know, Mitchell has been a little abnormal since he was young. I heard that he is living with another man. Oh my God, they will go to hell after they die? Mary, I told you, you can't say bad things about homosexuals now. It's called political correctness, George reminded in a low voice. Chapter 159 Good Uncle Ron. The call ended with the old couple discussing whether homosexuality is in line with God's will. Mary won the debate on this topic by threatening not to give George money to buy beer. Yes, since George's heart attack in childhood, Ron insisted that George lose his financial independence, and the reason is of course for his health. Facts have proved that George has been in good health by drinking less beer and doing harmonious father-son exercise with Ron. He is still alive and well. After hanging up the phone, Penny had left, leaving Howard, Leonard and Rajesh to argue about which supermodel on TV is more suitable to Mary. Ron clapped his hands helplessly. Hey, guys, do you really think those women have anything to do with you? If you have the time, why not help me think of some more realistic questions, such as what kind of gifts do you think are better for children? Children? Sheldon turned his head in shock. You are not going to, Howard. If you want to give a gift to a child, it is best to go to the comic book store. There are children who have just learned to read and wear flash clothes and do physics research. I guess this big kid still writes a diary about his poop every day. Leonard showed a constipated expression because he had read those diaries. Ron felt that it was useless to ask these geeky scientists this question. He had no choice but to throw the question back to his good sister Fiona, who had 4 children. In comparison, Fiona was much more reliable. The next day, Ron thought about the scene of meeting Claire, his arch-enemy in junior high school many times. Of course, this arch-enemy was what Claire thought of herself. Ron never took this rebellious sister who was 6 years older than him seriously at that time. She's just a middle school girl, how can you really take her seriously, right? Little did he know that it was this attitude that made his relationship with Claire even worse. But in any case, Ron didn't expect that when he pushed open the door, he would see a very funny scene. Hi, Ron. Phil didn't hold the handrail on the stairs properly and slipped. Oh my God, my back. Oh my God. Phil probably slipped his back and fell to the ground in a strange posture. Kids, this is your Uncle Ron. Ron, come and help. Carry Phil to the sofa. Claire hurriedly called Ron for help. Are you sure? Ron pouted. Are you sure this scene won't be too hot to the eyes? There are so many children here. Don't talk nonsense. Hurry up. Ron picked up Phil, and Claire kept nagging beside him. Are you sure you don't need to call a nurse? The appearance of a good wife and a good mother doesn't show the feeling of a rebellious girl at all. Gently, a little more, Phil complained in a low voice. Oh my God, where did that guy come from? In a one-on-one fight, I can easily knock him down. Ron, I think it's better to forget it. When I first met you, you were as weak as you are now. If Uncle Pritchett hadn't said that you were Claire's classmate, I would have almost beaten you to death. I was only 12 years old that year, and you were 18. Let's go back to the room. Haley didn't care about the new strange uncle at all, and pulled a young man in the room who was unfamiliar to Ron to go upstairs. Ron, that's Haley's boyfriend. Help me scare him and make him retreat. All our old accounts will be written off. Claire took the opportunity to help Phil turn over and whispered in Ron's ear. No problem. Ron nodded, turned around and immediately put on a friendly smile. Are you Haley? I'm Ron, your grandparents' grandson. You can call me Uncle Ron. The last time I saw you, you were still a baby. Really? But I've never seen you before. It must be said that Ron's handsome appearance is too lethal to a girl like Haley who knows nothing about the world. The girl left her boyfriend and ran down the stairs in a few steps. You are much more handsome than Uncle Mitchell. Maybe it's because I'm too busy. Wait, Ron's eyes stared at the shoes that Phil had just dropped on the ground, and he immediately had an idea in his mind. Isn't this Phil's shoe? Phil, do you need me to help you take it? Ron bent down to pick up Phil's shoes, and accidentally dropped his IRS agent ID on the ground, which just landed at the handsome guy's feet. "Is this your ID?" The handsome guy picked up Ron's ID, a little confused. "Yes, that's right, this is my ID. I'm an IRS agent." "Thank you, young man. What's your name?" Ron's kind smile gradually changed in the eyes of the handsome boy. After all, the name of the IRS is well known in the United States. Even in some places, Americans will tell disobedient children that if they don't obey, the IRS will take you away and tie you up, and tax all your pocket money. Hello, my name is Dylan." The handsome boy stretched out his hand to Ron nervously, and Ron of course stretched out his hand in a friendly manner. It was just that before the ID fell off, he did a little trick on his holster and gently pulled it with a gesture of shaking hands. Bang! A Smith & Wesson M500 revolver fell to the ground, and everyone was stunned. "Don't be nervous, everyone," Ron put his hand down to comfort them. "As an agent, it's reasonable for me to carry a gun at all times, right?" Dylan nodded woodenly. Claire gave Ron a thumbs up secretly and mouthed, "Well done. Please increase your strength." Ron blinked to indicate that he received it. Ron picked up the gun, wiped it with his sleeve and handed it to Dylan. "This is the most powerful pistol sold by Smith & Wesson. It is one of my favorite weapons." "Have you tried it?" Dylan, who was frightened, heard Ron's question and shook his head quickly. "It uses 12.7 high-powered pistol bullets. The power of one bullet is enough to blow a person's head apart, just like a bursting watermelon. It's amazing." Ron licked his lips. "In fact, I just used it to rescue a female hostage last week. Maybe it was because I was too close. The robber's blood splashed all over the woman. This is probably the only shortcoming of this gun. Do you want to try it?" Ron said the creepy words with a regretful tone, which frightened the young man. "No, I only play the guitar." Dylan quickly retracted his hand as if he had touched a red-hot iron. Chapter 160. You should find a class to attend. "So you are a musician." Now Haley finally found something to brag about, and proudly boasted for her boyfriend. "Yes, he is the lead singer and guitarist of the school band, and he also writes his own songs. You don't know how great his songs are." As she said that, Haley looked past Ron and directly met Claire's sight. The rebellious little girl wanted to see her mother's angry look, but unfortunately she was disappointed. Claire was not angry, but looked like she had everything under control. She pretended to be surprised and said, "Really? Your classmate is also a musician? It just so happens that your Uncle Ron also played in a band when he was in college, and he also wrote a few songs. He was very popular for a while, and finally sold them to a record company at a high price." "That's true, right?" "What? Uncle Ron was a musician?" Haley exclaimed. Claire proudly waved her little fist in her heart. "What do you think? Are you dumbfounded? Why do you think I let Ron come to my house first? I have been on guard against you for a long time. A mother knows a girl best." Haley is a replica of Claire when she was young, so Claire knows exactly what kind of boys Haley will be attracted to. When she learned that Ron was coming to visit her today, she invited him to her home as soon as possible. Although she was often annoyed by Ron's various behaviors when she was in school, Claire had to admit that Ron was the most talented person she had ever met. "Yes," Ron nodded. "At that time, several record companies approached me and wanted me to be their signed singer, but I really didn't like life under the spotlight, so I rejected them all. Instead, I sold the songs to them, and the money I got was just enough for my brother and I to pay for college living expenses and other expenses. I also have the record company's contact information." "What songs have you written, Dylan? If they are good, I can recommend them to you." Ron released a trace of kindness. He was not as nervous as Claire. In his opinion, isn't it normal to have a relationship when you are in school? Just don't do what your mother did when she was in school and get a baby. "Claire, do you have any musical instruments at home? Can I borrow them?" "Of course." "Wait," Claire hesitated for a moment, but still agreed. "Really? What songs have you written?" Haley was skeptical. "Shape of You, Up." "This song is a bit inappropriate for children, and it's not actually written for young people like you." Phil, who was lying on the sofa, took the initiative to expose it for Ron. But he regretted it after saying the title of the song. "The song is nice, but what the hell are those lyrics?" "Yes, that's right, but you have no right to say that. When you were Haley's age, you were about to become a father." Ron took the opportunity to complain about Phil while Claire was away. "Oh," Haley said meaningfully, but her boyfriend's reaction was a bit strange. He was originally frightened by Ron and then trembled with excitement. "Oh my God, you are the great Ed, here is the guitar." Claire handed the guitar to Dylan. "Yes, that's right, Ed is Ron's stage name. I didn't expect that Haley's classmate is also your fan. Ron is really something." "Yes, I am a fan of Ed." It was after listening to his songs that I started to embark on the path of music. Even the songs I wrote are paying tribute to your Shape of You, idol. Let's sing a good song for everyone. Actually, this song is written for Haley. I called it Moonlight. Moonlight? I remember Beethoven has a sonata called this name. At least it's a good start. Ron whispered to Claire. Maybe Haley made a good choice? This is at least better than your poet named Ricky. Hey. Don't compare everyone with you, okay? Ricky is a very good poet among ordinary people, Claire said dissatisfiedly. Phil, who is Ricky? Unfortunately, everyone was attracted by Dylan, and no one paid attention to poor Phil. Dylan sat opposite Phil, strummed his guitar and began to sing. Stars passed by the sky, they were attracted by you and fell, the moonlight sprinkled on your face, because they finally found their home. I just want FXXKU. The first two sentences sounded right, but the lyrics became more and more unbearable. Ron was very upset, and the expressions of the Dunphy couple became more and more weird. What the hell is this? Paying tribute to me? So in your eyes, I am just a singer of 8 songs? Stop. Stop. Stop, Ron, who could no longer bear it, hurriedly stopped. To be honest, if this is your level, I suggest that you don't go down the road of music. With your level, there is no way for you to go in music. Honestly, you should find a class as soon as possible, Ron criticized unceremoniously. Hey. Ron, what you said is too harsh. Before Haley could say anything, Phil intervened. After all, he is your fan too. Aren't you afraid of hurting your fans' hearts by saying that? It doesn't matter. I don't plan to fool around in the music industry anyway. Ron shrugged and looked at the handsome guy who was so hit by him that he couldn't raise his head. What do you think? Do you think what I said was too harsh? Haley and Dylan nodded together, with a little resentment in Haley's eyes. Ron's expression became serious. I'm not trying to hit you on purpose, man. You know, music is something that requires talent. A person without talent will never succeed in this field. Besides, the content of music is certainly not just vulgar. Ron sighed. Okay, Shape of You is a bit vulgar. After all, it was a song I wrote when I was hanging out in nightclubs, but I can write more than just this song. Can I have a guitar? Dylan handed over the guitar woodenly, tested the sound a little, and a melody bloomed between his fingers. I found a love for me, darling, just dive right in and follow my lead. Well, I found a girl beautiful and sweet. Ron's voice was not particularly outstanding, but he had no problem controlling this song. Everyone was immediately intoxicated by this moving melody, and even the little resentment in Haley's eyes disappeared without a trace. Instead, it turned into deep admiration. Little Haley is not stupid, she is just a little crazy. She can still distinguish good music from bad. This song is much better than Dylan's FXXK song. Compared with him, Ron is absolutely right, it is really rubbish. See, this is real music. Ron finished singing, pressed the strings and stood up. Don't think that music is just a trick to pick up girls. It is an art that people without talent can't get in. Chapter 161 Childhood Fun and Apartment Wars. In the end, Ron still failed to dispel Haley's admiration for her boyfriend Dylan. Of course, it was not all fruitless. At least Ron dared to guarantee that for at least a week, Dylan would be like his stage name Ed when he thought of his harmless handsome face, and would be unable to break into the house for the time being. In comparison, the family gathering of the Pritchett family was not so interesting. Uncle Pritchett was still as weird as ever, marrying a woman who was almost the same age as Ron and had a child after a second marriage. And Uncle Pritchett's son, Mitchell, not only brought his boyfriend Cameron back home, but the two of them actually adopted a child together. When Ron felt that his little heart could not accept it, Uncle Pritchett was still able to be normal, talking and laughing with the family. Apart from anything else, just this calmness made Ron admire it. Ron asked himself, if it was his son who was gay and brought his boyfriend back to him, he would have to break the legs of both of them. The so-called political correctness is just for fools. Whoever believes it is a fool. Why don't you let those who say they support it every day but don't take action try it? When Ron called Mary to report in the evening, he said as above. That's good, that's good. Mary was relieved to hear the news. Her focus was still on Haley's early love, because she also had a son who was as troublesome as Haley. Of course, this son was not Ron, but George. I don't oppose early love, but if someone gets killed accidentally, my God. Haley's future life must be hard to imagine, Mary sighed. You don't know how panicked I was when George bought that second-hand SUV with a bed in it. Fortunately, George returned it in the end. Ron's eyes widened. Mom, you and Dad were also like this back then. Of course, he wisely didn't say it. Oh my God, that idiot George. Hearing this, Ron couldn't help laughing out loud. Do you know what he said to Dad at that time? He actually said that with his car, he could even let Sheldon sleep on the sofa bed inside when he drove him to school. Using Sheldon as an excuse is really amazing. Old George interrupted. I asked him at the time, when you saw this sofa, the first thing you thought of was that my brother could sleep on it? Guess what he said? He said the first person he thought of was Sheldon. Ron asked tentatively. Old George was relieved. No, he admitted that he was thinking of something else. At least in terms of honesty, it shows that he can still be saved. That's why I threw the mouse into the car instead of burning his broken car while he was in the toilet. Ron laughed. God knows how much money he let that unscrupulous used car dealer make. But, to be honest, George is really a businessman. When I was in college, George even said that he would pay for my and Sheldon's tuition. George Sr. sighed. I don't know about that, but the family was really in a difficult situation at that time. So was it George Jr. who paid for your tuition in the end? Of course not. I can earn much more money than him, but he paid part of Sheldon's tuition. To be precise, we paid AA together. Fortunately, Missy didn't go to college, otherwise, the family would definitely not be able to afford it. Ron, who are you talking to on the phone? Speak of the devil. Sheldon suddenly pushed the door open. Mom and Dad, do you want to talk to them? Ron gestured with his cell phone. But Sheldon had no intention of answering it. Tell them that everything is fine with me, even if I can't wash clothes on laundry day. Sheldon walked past Ron nervously, like a broken puppet. Okay, Mom, I'll call you when I have time. Bye. Ron hung up the phone in a hurry. As a dedicated brother, he didn't want Sheldon to feel guilty about this matter. Sheldon, what's wrong with you? Today is laundry day, you should be in the laundry room downstairs. Sheldon's life is very regular, so regular that Ron, after spending a long time with him, even developed the habit of knowing what day of the week it is just by looking at what he eats and does today. No, I don't have to do the laundry even if it's laundry day today, Sheldon said proudly. A self-righteous girl who thinks I have no way to deal with her if she fills up all the washing machines with her dirty clothes is so naive. Well, what did you do to Penny's clothes? Ron asked helplessly. He was too lazy to ask such stupid questions as why he had a conflict with Penny. No matter what, Sheldon can always find a weird reason. Let me think about it. I seem to have seen some women's underwear. Sheldon walked to the window with a happy step. Oh, I remember, just now, when I happened to look out the window, I actually saw a bra hanging on a telephone pole. Do you think that's the style you've seen before? Huh? How could I have seen Penny's underwear? Ron followed Sheldon to the window. Outside, the telephone poles and wires were hung with all kinds of Penny's clothes. Oh my God, Ron covered his face. How did you put all these clothes up there? Of course I used some physical methods. Sheldon was so proud that his tail was about to rise to the sky, if he had a tail. Well, Sheldon, don't blame me for not reminding you. Penny is from Nebraska. She is a cowgirl. She can throw you to the ground in a minute, tie up your limbs and drag you behind a fast horse. Impossible. This is California, not the West. Ron rolled his eyes. Then maybe she can drag you behind her car. Hey, or there is no need to go through so much trouble. Tying you up, pouring cement and sinking you into the sea is also a good idea. I heard that the gangs in Los Angeles often do this. Sheldon finally got stuck and looked at Ron for help. You won't let her do this, right? Ron, of course not, but I don't have time to protect you. In fact, I need to go out now. Ron was fine originally, but in order to teach Sheldon a lesson, he didn't mind going out for a walk to give Penny a chance. I'm such a good and dedicated brother. Knock, knock, knock. As if to prove Ron's words, there was a rapid knock on the door as soon as he finished speaking. Sheldon. Sheldon. Ron sat on the sofa, with an expression of watching a good show on his face. Look, your rival is here. I hope you won't be trampled too badly by her. Chapter 162. The little girl selling cakes. Ron, aren't you the law enforcer of the city? I think you will stop the crazy behavior of some crazy women who have lost their minds, right? Sheldon still pretended to be calm, but Ron guessed that he was already panicking. Of course, if I was at work, Ron said easily, but now I am off duty. No matter what happens, it has nothing to do with me. Law enforcers also need holidays and rest. This is human rights. As he said, Ron opened the door and let Penny in. Ron, Penny, who was originally aggressive, was dazed for a moment when she saw Ron. When did you come back? It doesn't matter when I came back. What's important is your clothes. Ron had to remind Penny again. They were all thrown onto the power lines by Sheldon. When you finish cleaning him up, don't forget to ask him how he did it. As for what you are going to do, I'm sorry, I don't know anything. I'm just an ordinary office worker who plans to go out for a walk. As he said that, Ron winked at Penny, meaning that you can do whatever you want. I don't care, just don't go too far. Penny immediately understood and nodded. Then he clenched his fists, clenched his knuckles until they cracked, and walked towards Sheldon. Ron, you can't do this. Sheldon's horrified voice came from behind. You are a law enforcer. I want to report a crime. There's a woman here who tried to hurt me. Every day, countless teenagers are hurt by beautiful women, but this is not within my jurisdiction. It depends on how much fun you have. Sheldon was still yelling, but Ron could no longer hear him, and he was very sure that no nosy neighbors would disturb their intimate communication. Because he was very considerate to close the door from the outside when he left. Ron was a little confused when he walked out of the apartment. He didn't know what to do for a while. It seemed that he had been busy since he arrived in Los Angeles. Even at night, he either played games with the four scientists or challenged the limit with Max and Caroline. But when Ron wanted to call the two beautiful new bosses to say hello, he found that no one answered the phone. Instead, he was called by the person he least wanted to receive a call during the phone call. Ron, are you interested in joining our operation? As if knowing how bored Ron was, Hobbs's voice came from the receiver. If I had something else to do now, I wouldn't ask the following question. Ron sighed. What kind of operation? Is it fun? It's just to arrest a small drug dealer, mainly to train my new subordinates. Besides, Anonymous wants me to talk to you. Ron refused in his heart. What does he want you to talk to me about? I don't have much to say to him. Get in the car. A car parked on the side of the road suddenly started and drove to Ron. The window was lowered, and it was Hobbs's big round head. Let's talk slowly. In addition, I brought you a set of equipment. If you haven't gained weight, it will be just your size. Okay. Ron opened the door helplessly and got in the car. Please start your performance. It's like this. Hobbs closed the front window, and the voice could only be heard by the two people in the back seat. It seems that there is intelligence pointing out that a series of plans against the United States are brewing recently, so Anonymous is forming a new secret department and intends to draw elite soldiers from various institutions to join in on the other side. In a dilapidated building in the slums, Caroline followed Max, who was holding a box stealthily. Just when Max was about to knock on the door, Caroline rushed up and patted Max on the shoulder. Max, turn around. Yes, I followed you. Unfortunately, the man who turned around was not Max, but a man whose hairstyle, clothes and even figure were very similar to Max. Sorry, I followed you. Just because your hairstyle and coat are very similar to a woman I know, you can take it as a compliment. You didn't really mistake him for me, did you? My beard is much thicker than his. Ding. The real Max came out of the elevator and looked at the embarrassed Caroline, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. Where are we going? Why did you come to this shabby building? There's a strong smell of marijuana here. Caroline covered her nose and complained. Oh my God, this can't be where your mother lives. You actually thought my mother lives indoors? Max pretended to be surprised. Okay, listen, a friend of mine who sells drugs has been notifying me after every delivery recently, and then I come here to sell some snacks when people are hungry after smoking. Max showed the box he was holding to Caroline. Max, Caroline scolded, they are breaking the law. The FBI will come to arrest them. We won't be able to explain ourselves then. Max signaled Caroline to calm down with his eyes. Relax, they are just smoking some marijuana, which has been legalized in Los Angeles for a long time. Besides, how they smoke is their business. I'm just here to sell cakes and make some money for the equipment. Have you forgotten the new oven we liked? It has an automatic timing function. With it, we no longer have to get up in the middle of the night to turn off the oven before we can go back to sleep. No, Ron said that marijuana is a drug. This is a Chinese word, which means a poisonous drug. Caroline insisted on her principles. Marijuana makes people lazy and dazed, and it can also suck away people's ideals. Oh, so you found an IRS boyfriend, and you know everything about drugs. Max, Caroline tried to dissuade him. Believe me, They are not satisfied after having tried narcotics. They will definitely want to try something else, and then step by step fall into the abyss. Not to mention that they are not in a good mind after taking drugs. Maybe they will use the stuff they have to shoot us. It must be said that it is good for Ron to know Caroline early. At least, under Ron's influence, Caroline's worldview is not as distorted as most Americans. Of course, it may not be the person who is distorted, but the ambiguous name. Drugs are just a Chinese term. In the United States, they are called habit-forming drugs, which literally means addictive drugs. A name that makes people less defensive. However, the argument between the two hot girls in the corridor has not yet come to an end. With a ding, the elevator arrived again. The moment the door opened, a large group of fully armed FBI agents suddenly flashed out of the stairs and the elevator at the same time. "Get out of the way. Get out of the way," a big man in the lead shouted. "Come on, get ready to break the door. 1, 2, 3. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163: The Little Girl Selling Cakes 2. The FBI team members were armed with various weapons. The agent in the front was holding a shotgun. They quickly and swiftly shot open the door lock next to Caroline, and then kicked the door open. "Police! Don't move!" Under the mask, Hobbs yelled at the two beauties next to him without any mercy. I don't know anything. What happened in there has nothing to do with us." Caroline was so scared that her face turned pale. She quickly stepped aside and raised her hands. She was almost scared to pee again. Calm down, Max comforted Caroline's emotions, and stood with Caroline very experientedly to make way. "Don't worry, it's just a temporary raid. This kind of thing happens frequently in this community." "Who are you?" Hobbs blocked the two ladies like a big wall. "Hobbs, you scared them. They have nothing to do with the drug dealer you raided. They are just two poor girls selling cupcakes." The special police walking behind, without any weapons in his hands, and even the mask only covered the upper half of his face, was eating a lollipop in a very unserious manner. Even without using sound, just by the chin, Caroline and Max recognized the owner of the chin, and cheered in surprise at the same time. "Ron. Why are you here, Ron? I've told you many times that you have to call me by my code name when you're on a mission outside." Hobbs turned around and glared at Ron fiercely. "Okay, Vulture, whatever you say is Vulture," Ron said indifferently. "It's the Bald Eagle. My code name is the Bald Eagle, but you have no hair on your head. I think it's more appropriate to call you the Vulture, since they were all acquaintances anyway." Ron simply took off his mask, touched his lush hair casually, and looked at Hobbs innocently. "Really, there's not a single hair. I have a subordinate named Arthur who is in the same situation as you, but he just doesn't want to accept the folk remedy I recommended to him," rubbing his head with ginger juice. "Do you want to try it? I shaved my head myself, not naturally bald." Hobbs was so angry that his eyes widened. If there weren't so many people present, he really wanted to take out his gun and shoot him in the head. "Well, if you say so, then it's fine." Ron didn't continue to argue with him about the issue of hair growth, and turned to Max and the other two. "Why are you here? Does the small cake shop now provide a late-night food delivery service with beautiful waiters? Believe me, this is not a good idea. A beautiful lady walking alone on the streets of Los Angeles late at night is almost a naked invitation to those criminals to commit crimes." "Well, it's not as dangerous as you think," Max explained. "Those people will only attack people like you who look rich. No one will embarrass a waitress who has to work hard for a living late at night. Those people just want money to buy new drugs and continue to return to the dream." It must be said that Max is indeed a child who grew up in the slums. He couldn't grasp the psychology of these bastards in the slums more accurately. Ron believed that even if he really met someone who had bad intentions towards her, Max would have enough means to deal with it. "I'm not talking about you, I'm talking about her, Caroline," Ron said in a slightly heavier tone. "Do you really think you can handle the streets of Los Angeles at night?" It's not Ron's fault for scolding her like that, but Caroline is different now. If it was Caroline a week ago, there would be nothing worth remembering except a good-looking skin. Moreover, Caroline's appearance does not conform to the mainstream aesthetic standards of the slums. They all like big breasts and big butts, like Max. But it's different now. Caroline has an extra $10,000 in her account, and it's not a one-time payment. In the future, there will be thousands to tens of thousands of dollars almost every month. This amount of money is enough for an addict to never wake up from the anesthesia of drugs. Hey, I'm different now, okay, Caroline said unconvincedly. I've lived here for a long time. I can say that I'm no different from Max, who was born and raised here. Oh my god, Max covered his forehead. How can you be so naive? No, there's a big difference. If Max was walking alone on the street, I believe she would have enough ways to solve all kinds of troubles, but you're different. The next day, cleaners will find parts of your body in different trash cans. Even if they search everywhere, there's no way to put your body together, because there's always at least one good organ beating in a rich person who's matching organs. Caroline was shocked by the cruel facts Ron told her. Come out, pull him out for me. And take the evidence and put it back in the evidence room. You lost it last time, Hobbs shouted, and the FBI special police carried a long-haired man out of the house. It was the man who was mistaken by Caroline in the corridor just now. The evidence bag that the SWAT took out later also contained drugs and an M1911 pistol that were found in his home. Boss, this guy was actually trying to resist, but I immediately knocked his gun away with a front flip and a flying kick. How about that? Pretty cool, right? The SWAT, who spoke like a rapper, came up to Hobbs. If Ron still couldn't recognize that this was Hobbs' high school classmate, then it would be a miracle. Hobbs, you guys play the rest, I'll take the two ladies away. Ron waved and left with Caroline. Some things are not convenient to say in front of Hobbs. With Hobbs' experience, he will definitely react that there is something wrong with Caroline's online fundraising. Max, why do you still come out to deliver food at night? Isn't the money Caroline raised enough? As soon as they walked out of the building, Ron asked, you are not still working in that restaurant, are you? Of course the money is enough, but it is only enough to pay the rent and decoration expenses. The location of the store you found is indeed good, but the rent is not too cheap. If this guy hadn't accidentally broken our original oven, the traffic at that location would be enough for us to make back the cost of the first few months. So, the oven I gave you is broken again? How did it break? Ron looked at Caroline, who was lowering her head because of something wrong. Forget it, I won't ask, but I think the money earned from delivering food late at night is still too little. How about this? I will buy you another oven. Don't rush to refuse. Just regard it as my investment in your small cake business. If one day you plan to go public, remember to count my share as original shares. Chapter 164 I will raise your wife and daughter. Oh, Ron, you are so nice. Max's eyes were full of affection. Ron believed that if Caroline was not still beside him, she would immediately pounce on him and ride on him. Of course, Caroline's reaction was the same. Ron knew that he would probably be busy again tonight. By the way, what did Hobbs say to me today? Ron escorted the two ladies back home. As soon as this thought flashed through his mind, his mouth was immediately blocked by another hot mouth. Ron, love me, Caroline said emotionally. Forget it, with a beauty in front of him, I will think about Hobbs tomorrow. After a night of tiring. The next day, when Ron was still asleep, the two beauties had left for the store, leaving Ron alone lying on the bed to sleep in until he was woken up by Hobbs' call. Ron, what do you think about what I told you yesterday? What is it? Ron opened his eyes dazedly, and asked a beat slower than usual. Come with me to Moscow, Hobbs explained helplessly. The task assigned by Anonymous, you and I will form an interdepartmental special operations force under the Department of Homeland Security to deal with it. Ron interrupted him rudely. Then I'll say it again. No way for me to be your subordinate. Please pass this sentence to Mr. Anonymous. Goodbye. Wait. Hearing that Ron was about to hang up the phone, Hobbs quickly stopped him. We can discuss the issue of who will be in charge and who will be in charge later, but you can go to Moscow with me to investigate first. Go to Moscow to investigate? Investigate what? I remember you didn't tell me this yesterday. Yesterday, a Russian military convoy was attacked on the outskirts of Moscow, satellite components were stolen, and the car came out of nowhere. 6 military personnel were hospitalized and many vehicles were destroyed. It only took 90 seconds in total. Excellent method of committing the crime. Hearing such a violent case, Ron suddenly became energetic and exclaimed. That's right. Such a clean and neat method. In my impression, only one team can accomplish it. You know who I'm talking about, right? V. What V? Why don't I seem to understand? Ron asked with a malicious look. Isn't that a puppet created by you and the CIA? Mr. Hobbs from Liberty leading the people. No. I said, it was a misunderstanding. I just happened to be on a mission there and was photographed by reporters. It has nothing to do with the revolution in Brazil, Hobbs said angrily. I'm talking about your friends, Toretto and his gang. Don't deny it. I know you have a good personal relationship with him. Even my men have not been able to catch the man because of your influence. No, it's just that your men are too incompetent, just like their superiors. Okay, I'm not here to talk to you about this. Can you hand over Toretto's contact information? This incident is definitely not a trivial matter. Or you can ask him first, what is he planning to do with that thing? Who told him to steal it? Hobbs' tone softened. After all, he was asking someone to do something for him. If Ron really didn't say it, no one could do anything to him. Listen, I don't know how you are so sure to doubt Toretto, but I can tell you that he definitely didn't do it, Ron replied with certainty. Since you participated in the Brazilian incident, you should know that he has plenty of money now and has no reason to get involved in this mess. There are many people who can commit such a high-level crime. Even if you let me do it, I can do it faster than this and resolve the battle within a minute. Do you believe it? Ron said very seriously. So, do you want to doubt my suspicion by the way? Maybe I just happen to be free and plan to build a military satellite for fun. No, it definitely won't be you, Hobbs sighed. I'm not doubting your ability, but this is obviously not your style. Ron asked curiously, what's my style? If it were you, even in the capital of the great emperor, you would blow up at least half of Moscow before leaving in a swagger. This is your style, okay, so I am this kind of person in your mind. Ron touched his chin and thought, maybe you can check the information of Owen Shaw. He is a terrorist who has been active recently. I even found that he is related to Barack, who was involved in drug trafficking in Los Angeles and fled back to Brazil. Even Barack may just be Owen's subordinate. Owen Shaw? I seem to remember this person. If I remember correctly, he should be a former British MI6. I have dealt with him. He is a very difficult guy. Thinking of this person, Hobbs couldn't help but have a headache. There are not many people in this world who can give him a headache. Ron is one of them. He was a very troublesome person when he was fighting alone before. Now that he has a team, it is even more of a headache for Hobbs. Hobbs has been thankful countless times that this person was recruited by the security agency early. If his opponent is him. Hobbs took a breath. Then there is only one way, which is to buy multiple large insurance policies for himself, so that at least after he dies, his daughter can have no worries about food and clothing for the rest of her life. Besides his boss, the famous Zio brothers were probably the biggest headache for Hobbs. They were equally powerful and skilled. Then you're on your own. Go ahead, big guy. If you die, I'll take care of your wife and daughter. Ron gloated over a Chinese sentence and translated it for Hobbs. Thank you in advance. Perhaps due to cultural differences, Hobbs was not angry, but thanked him from the bottom of his heart. Okay, if you really don't want to go with me, can you give me Toretto's contact information? I need to use a driver to fight against another driver, and Toretto is one of the best drivers I know. Dominican Republic, Ron thought for a moment. That's all I can say. There is no extradition law there. Even if you know about it, you can't do anything to him. Besides, he has many friends there. Believe me, you definitely don't want to cause yourself more trouble. Are you persuading me to give up? No, I'm telling you that if you want Toretto to take action, you'd better show your sincerity, such as an amnesty order. If you don't have the authority to grant amnesty, you might as well ask Anonymous. I think he must have this authority. Ron smiled, but his true intentions were revealed. Chapter 165 Weapon Upgrade. Anonymous certainly has the authority to pardon Toretto, but if he wants to get this pardon, Toretto must prove that he has the corresponding value, and more importantly, he must be willing to come. Ron believes that Hobbs will find the most important bait that Toretto is willing to come back. Arthur, Hank, you'd better practice your shooting skills if you have nothing to do recently, Ron said in the office, especially you, Hank, you seem to have gained some weight recently. You know, on the battlefield, fat people are more popular with opponents than thin people, because the target is bigger and you can hit them easily without aiming. Hank felt Ron's deep malice towards the group of fat people. Am I fat because I eat your rice? Boss, I think as a sniper, a larger weight is helpful to offset the recoil of the gun, thereby improving shooting accuracy. Hank said nonsense. Even a 3-year-old child wouldn't believe this. Ron curled his lips and said, so, my dear sniper, what should you do when you fail to kill the target and expose your position? I can't miss. Hank said firmly. Just like the boss said, there is a limit to the accuracy that people can achieve simply by manual aiming. However, if we change our thinking and carry out an all-round bombing of the target, we can be truly foolproof. Hank's eyes were firm, like a saint on a pilgrimage. As long as the target is still within the scope of normal humans, no one can escape within the 5-meter radius of the explosion. Good fellow. Ron shouted, good fellow. Is Hank possessed? When Ron used the theory of the large caliber Colt to fool him before, he dared to shout out the explosion radius to 2 meters. 5 meters explosion radius. What do you want to do? This power is almost as powerful as that of a 150mm howitzer. Are you going to fight? Bastard. So, are you starting to feel less satisfied with the LG-5 sniper grenade launcher? No, LG-5 is a very bad girl. Hank gently wiped the gun body, as gently as if he was wiping his lover's body. But men always change, and wanting to be bigger and stronger is not wrong in itself. Listening to Hank's scumbag speech, Ron also fell into deep thought. If he remembered correctly, this beginning was probably the beginning of Fast and Furious 6. If Ron remembered correctly, Owen, that madman, would drive a tank to the street to race with Toretto. That's a tank. With just this little firepower now, it seems that it is indeed not enough, and the anti-material gun given to Hank some time ago is also not good enough. The anti-material sniper rifle can only deal with the armor of the weak position of the previous generation of main battle tanks, and the latest German main battle tank that Owen drove all over the street in the original book. Arthur, who is maintaining his weapon, sneered. This fat guy, is he thinking about it? But as soon as this idea flashed through Arthur's mind, Ron slapped him in the face. You make sense. I hope you can communicate with me more about ideas like this in the future. I will find a way to solve the problem of new weapons, Ron said thoughtfully, and Arthur's mentality collapsed. Boss, Arthur, who is always used to showing a cold image, didn't know how to start for a moment. Ron patted Arthur on the shoulder. Don't worry, you have a share too. Everyone has a share of these equipment upgrades. By the way, Andy, do you want me to get some equipment for you too? Andy put down the account book in his hand and shook his head to refuse. No, forget it. I am more suitable for clerical work. At most, I can do something similar to Batman's butler. Ron thought of doing it immediately, which was Ron's usual advantage. After coming out of the office, Ron immediately called Orlov. Listen, I need some new stuff now, heavy firepower, you know? The kind that can take out tanks. Take out tanks? That depends on the specific model of the tank. If you're talking about those old Soviet-made ones used by the Middle Eastern Army, the most popular RPG on the market can do the job, provided that you can get the rocket launcher within 10 meters of the tank. As a professional arms dealer, Orlov introduced skillfully. No, if that's the kind of general-purpose stuff I want, I can do it myself. Listen, I want good stuff, understand? The kind that can handle all the troubles remotely. Ron vented his dissatisfaction into the receiver. The problem is that the stuff you want is hard to get for you on the market right now. Do you understand? Orlov's tone revealed helplessness. Because of some U.S. military operations in the Middle East, this stuff is in short supply. In order to reduce casualties among its own soldiers, this stuff is very strictly controlled, so your request is really hard to meet? Ron didn't expect this. You can't even get me a Javelin. Javelin is an anti-tank missile currently in service with the U.S. military. It is launched from a launcher similar to a rocket launcher, and basically has a good effect on all tanks in service. No. Not even one. Orlov shook his head quickly. Forget about all the standard equipment in service. If a similar piece of equipment slips out of your hands and falls into the hands of the resistance forces in the Middle East, all of our good days will be over. Well, from your professional perspective, is there any reliable alternative equipment that can be obtained for me and is not so conspicuous? The sniper grenade you got me last time is good, but it's a pity that it can't be used for anti-tank. You have to let me think about it. On the other side, after a violent interrogation, Hobbs finally confirmed from a captured terrorist that the mastermind of this operation was Owen Shaw. Fortunately, he didn't hear that Deckard Shaw was with him, otherwise Hobbs would have a headache, but even if only one of the Shaw brothers was there, it would be enough for him. He needed help, and fortunately, the video footage retrieved by his men from the surveillance camera just happened to have the content he needed. Wait, Hobbs stopped his men who were playing the surveillance video. Rewind this video 15 seconds. Yes. Right here, zoom in on that woman. Zoom in again. Immediately, Under the control of the technicians, the originally blurry image of the woman on the big screen became clearer and clearer. It was Letty. Yes, that's right. It's her, Hobbs exclaimed in surprise. Hey, buddy, are you attracted to her? Do I need to remind you that she is a terrorist? The black guy asked with concern. No, she is not a terrorist, but our helper. Just wait and see. Chapter 166 Preparations of All Parties. Hobbs found a photo of Letty, who was supposed to be dead, from the on-site surveillance. He immediately set off with the amnesty order of the anonymous person and headed to the Dominican Republic. What was Ron doing? He was preparing for Christmas. Yes, you heard it right, Ron was preparing for Christmas. Hey Sheldon, do you and Leonard want to get a Christmas tree together? Penny knocked on the door and came in, just in time to see Ron lying on the sofa with Jehu. Ron, so you are here. I was going to ask you to go back to the apartment to decorate the Christmas tree. Please let me go, Ron replied weakly. You will never imagine that from yesterday to now, I have decorated a full 5 Christmas trees, one at Max's house, one at the Gallagher's house, one at the office, one at Mr. Tosey's house, and one at the home of the lonely old man Andy. Ron even specifically asked the old man if he wanted to come to the apartment to celebrate Christmas together, but Andy refused. Andy said he wanted to celebrate his first Christmas after being released from prison with his cellmates. Frankly speaking, if it weren't for Ms. Mary in Texas who asked him to spend Christmas with his family, he would have liked to spend Christmas with Andy. Because Andy's cellmates all looked so interesting. There was an old man named Hannibal Lecter who looked very energetic. He was said to be the prison chef and spoke very wisely. There was also a black old man who looked like Morgan Freeman. He could be said to be one of the most handsome black people Ron had ever seen. Ron planned to talk to them when he had time. But you didn't decorate your own Christmas tree, right? Penny tilted her head. Or is this a tradition of your Cooper family? No, we don't celebrate Christmas. As soon as Sheldon opened his mouth, Ron immediately retorted, no, it's just that you don't celebrate Christmas. In fact, our family celebrates it every year. Oh, didn't I say it was just a pagan festival of Saturnalia? Sheldon stared seriously. Kids, come here and sit down. It's time for Sheldon's favorite Christmas special science program. Howard greeted Penny sarcastically, but Sheldon couldn't hear the sarcasm in his words. In the ancient days before the emergence of Christianity, whenever the winter solstice came, the earth withered. Penny's mind was blank. She only saw Sheldon's lips moving up and down, spitting out one word after another. She could only add after he finished, okay, thanks for the science, but I bought some stupid gifts for you and Leonard. I'll put them under the Christmas tree later. Ron, you have a share too, thanks, I have prepared a gift for you too. To be precise, everyone has a share, except Sheldon. Wait, you bought me a gift? Sheldon said in surprise. Why did you do this? Because it's Christmas soon. Penny was a little overwhelmed by Sheldon's question. Howard leaned on Ron's shoulder with glee. Didn't you teach the girl you live with a Sheldon user guide? First, we are not living together, we just share a house. Second, with Penny's understanding, I believe she will sooner or later figure out a more complete Sheldon user guide. Ron was full of confidence in Penny. Just as he was about to express his opinion, his cell phone suddenly vibrated. After reading the text message, Ron immediately stood up from the sofa with full energy. Sorry, I need to leave. Hey. Are you sure you don't want to see how Sheldon teaches Penny about gifts? No, my Christmas present has arrived, I need to go and see it. After saying that, Ron happily put on his coat and went out. What a child, he is so happy to receive a Christmas present. Sheldon looked at Ron's back and said disdainfully. Downstairs, there was already a car parked. Orlov personally opened the door of the cargo compartment for Ron. My dear partner, guess what Christmas present I have prepared for you? Unless it is a single soldier anti-tank missile, nothing can make me spend a happy Christmas. Well, I said, this thing is really hard to get now. Orlov's expression was a little embarrassed, but I have prepared other good things for you. I believe you will like it. What do you think of this thing? Orlov took out a half-person high cylinder from the car and handed it to Ron. Don't say it, it is quite heavy. What is this? Type 97 individual fuel air bomb. Orlov was very proud. I spent a lot of time and effort to get one. It has a large killing range and strong power. It almost meets all your requirements. How about it? Are you satisfied with this Christmas gift? It would be a lie to say that he was not happy. This is a fuel air bomb. Even if it is a single soldier version, Its power is not comparable to those broken things that Ron usually plays with. In terms of power alone, almost all the weapons that Ron has played with before have been blown into slag. But Ron still pretended to be calm on the surface. Are you sure you are not mistaken? Can this thing be used to attack tanks? At most, it can deal with light armored units, right, but it is very powerful. Besides, what kind of mission will encounter terrorists driving tanks? If there are really such guys, you don't need to do anything. The army will naturally teach them a lesson. They are at most a bulletproof armored vehicle. Believe me, it is more than enough to deal with such a unit. Orlov was still talking about the advantages of the Type 97 individual fuel air bomb, but Ron couldn't listen at all. How could he explain this? There was no way to explain it. Orlov was right. Who would have thought that terrorists would drive tanks into the streets? So Ron could only think of a solution on his own. Unlike Los Angeles, in a seaside villa in the Dominican Republic, Toretto was working on improving the V8 engine on his car. Is this what you spent the $100 million you got from Brazil on? Hobbs' voice suddenly sounded from behind him. It's not hard to find you, Toretto. I'm not hiding. Toretto didn't even raise his head and continued to tinker with the engine. Hobbs walked around in front of Toretto and looked down at him. How is the life of a retired international criminal? I like it here very much. It's very peaceful. The most important thing is that there is no extradition law. Toretto was not to be outdone. What can you do for you, officer? Last Tuesday, a convoy attacked a Russian military truck. Toretto paused, but immediately returned to normal. I never work in cold places. I know that's not you, but I want you to help me find this convoy. Hobbs got straight to the point and stated his purpose. Why do you think I will help you? It's not you who is helping me. Hobbs finally showed a smug smile at this point, and put the file bag containing Letty's photo in front of Toretto. I believe that after you read what is here, you will beg to help me. Chapter 167 Sheldon's Hug. 10 minutes later, Toretto said goodbye to his new girlfriend who had become his ex-girlfriend and walked out of the room with a firm look in his eyes. Okay, I'll join. I want to know all the information you have and everything you know. Bring your team and I'll tell you. Hobbs leaned against the car, unmoved. This was a negotiation, and an impatient hunter would never hunt prey. Toretto shook his head. There is no team, just me. You think too simply. This convoy will disappear immediately after committing the crime. If you are alone, you have no chance at all. I chased this group of people in 4 continents and 12 countries, so believe me, the last thing I want to do is to trick you into helping me at your door. I need your help, Don, Hobbs said sincerely. I need your team. Toretto struggled for a moment and finally made up his mind. Immediately, the chain reaction began to spread around the world. The private plane flying to Mazu began to turn around, and the famous street thief in Mexico left with his friend's blessings after cracking an ATM. After receiving Toretto's text message, Hobbs came to see me. Ron just glanced at it casually and put his phone back in his pocket and raised his head. Compared with the great progress made on Hobbs' side, he was more interested in Sheldon's Christmas return gift. Dong dong dong, Merry Christmas, opening the door, just in time to see Penny's smiling face. Merry Christmas, I guess you don't want to see me the most today, right? Ron smiled. He had heard from Leonard that when he went to comfort Penny, who met a scumbag again yesterday, Penny actually kissed him. This made our little Otaku very happy, and he excitedly pulled Sheldon and Ron to show off almost all night. Yes, that's right, even though the two had dated twice before, Leonard didn't even kiss him, and Ron had to admire his integrity. Penny didn't reply. She hurried past Ron and came to Leonard. Leonard, is your leg better? Ron knew that these two people might really have something going on. Thank you for your concern. Leonard was flattered. Oh Penny, you finally came to exchange gifts with me. Ron's neurotic brother Sheldon appeared. When you know that no matter what you give, I have corresponding preparations, you will definitely be happy. Okay, here you go. Penny stuffed the gift into Sheldon's arms, but her eyes were looking at Leonard. I want to make it clear that I have some indigestion now, so if I leave suddenly, please don't be surprised. What tricks is Sheldon playing this time? Ron, who missed everything before, asked in a low voice. Leonard rolled his eyes. Sheldon bought 3 different price ranges of toiletries. After he finishes opening the gifts, he will go into the house and take out the corresponding price range and give it to Penny, and return the other 2. What a smart idea. Oh, it's a napkin. Sheldon opened the gift and breathed a sigh of relief. Penny's eyes were smiling, and Ron could actually see some of Mary's shadow in Penny's face now. Turn it over." The moment Sheldon saw the signature, he instantly lost all his strength and fell on the sofa weakly. To Sheldon, "May you live long and have a happy life." From Leonard Nimoy. "Who is that?" Ron asked. "The actor from Star Trek, who played Sheldon's favorite Spock," Leonard explained. "You are obviously his brother. How come you don't know his favorite character? Do you think I look like someone who has time to sit down and watch science fiction? My high school life is much richer than you think." Ron shrugged, and Leonard immediately didn't want to talk to this impersonator. That's right, in any high school or even college in the United States, who can be more respected than the quarterback of the football team? The answer is no one. Yes, he came to a restaurant. "I'm sorry that the napkin is a little dirty." Penny pointed to one of the stains. "He used this to wipe his mouth." "What?" Sheldon was so shocked that he dropped the box on the ground. "I got Leonard Nimoy's DNA. That's Sheldon. I only gave you a signed napkin. Do you know what this means?" Sheldon held the napkin with trembling hands. "This means that as long as I get another healthy egg, I can cultivate my own Leonard Nimoy." "Leonard, promise me that you will help me keep an eye on Sheldon." Recently, Ron's mouth twitched. "Don't let him get close to places like biology laboratories. I don't want to wake up one day and find the news headline saying that the actor Leonard Nimoy is running naked all over the streets." With Sheldon's madness, it's entirely possible. "Don't worry, leave it to me." Leonard patted his chest loyally. "Wait for me, I'll be back soon." Sheldon regained his sanity and hurried back to the room. "This is a gift for you, Ron, a tie." Penny began to distribute the gifts to the two people. "And you, Leonard, this is yours. Open it and take a look." "Oh, a motorcycle driving course." Leonard raised his voice. "You are still considerate." Leonard is a little lame now. He was crushed by a car when he was test driving a motorcycle. Coincidentally, the owner of the motorcycle is the same person as the scumbag scientist who just cheated on Penny. Ha ha ha. Ron couldn't help laughing. "Okay, then I think my gift for you will also touch you." Leonard took out a gift for Penny from the other side. 100 coolest science experiments for kids. Penny was surprised. "That's right, who made you so obsessed with science?" Leonard reminded. Being extremely obsessed with science is exactly what Penny said when she hooked up with a scumbag scientist. These two people are really amazing. Just as everyone was laughing, Sheldon finally came out of the room carrying a lot of things. "I know, these are not enough, right?" Sheldon covered his face with embarrassment, and stood there for a long time before he made up his mind. "Oh, and this." Sheldon walked over and hugged Penny gently. "Oh my God. Did you see that? Sheldon is hugging me," Penny exclaimed in surprise. "Everyone knows that Sheldon has mysophobia and hates physical contact. This is really a Christmas miracle." Ron took a sip of hot coffee and sighed. "I remember that he had to wear gloves when he ate and prayed with his family. I must be hallucinating." Ron drank the coffee in one gulp. Chapter 168, Departure. Ron drank his coffee in one gulp, and a call from an unfamiliar British number just happened to come into his phone. "Merry Christmas, Ron. This is Mycroft Holmes." The voice on the other end of the line was rational and calm, and it was the first time Ron had heard this voice. "Although we haven't met yet, I believe you must have heard some topics about me from my brother, right?" "Yes, but I think you definitely don't want to hear those words he used to describe you again." "Oh, and Merry Christmas." Ron stood up, and the call really surprised him. "Besides, I don't think I'm someone important enough for a senior British official to call and wish me Christmas." "Are you sure you dialed the right number? Do you need me to tell you the White House phone number?" "No, I'm looking for you, Ron Lee Cooper," McIff said firmly. "The best IRS agent in the United States." "Right, yes, that's me." Ron accepted McIff's compliment without any hesitation and changed to the tone and accent commonly used by British aristocrats. "Excuse me, sir, I'm not good at beating around the bush, so can you please tell me what you want to say? I think you should know that your friend Hobbs is leading a group of men to track down our Black Ops defector member Owen Shaw in the UK, right? Oh, I would like to invite you to come and work with him to be responsible for this arrest operation." McIff directly stated his purpose. "Why? I want to know why. You should have a group of good agents in the UK, right? For example, the tailor shop," Ron said puzzledly, "and Hobbs himself is also a very good agent, so why did you find me again? I don't want that stupid bear to mess up London and not be able to catch him in the end." Obviously, McIff had a very bad impression of Hobbs. "Then I think you should have heard of my style, sir." Ron laughed dumbly. Hobbs at least took the face of the local government into consideration, but Ron didn't care about anything. No matter where he went, He was always in chaos. Of course I know, but it's better than letting people run away. If it weren't for the tailor shop, which is training new employees recently, I would never bother you. Mikif was obviously very good at negotiation. Of course it's not completely without benefits. I can authorize you and give you the greatest convenience in your actions in the UK. How about it? Mikif threw out a bait that was not very tempting. For Ron, it was almost a matter of indifference, but he was planning to intervene in this matter. Perhaps it would be a good choice to intervene in this matter by taking advantage of Mikif's invitation? I can only say that I will go with you to see, but the result cannot be guaranteed, if it is still in time, Ron said lightly. With Owen's intelligence, it is impossible that he did not know to move to another place quickly after committing the crime. If it is still in time, I will arrange the nearest flight to pick you up, Mikif quickly agreed. Ron shook his head. He did not believe a word of what Mikif said just now. He must have other purposes. Ron felt that only Sheldon, who had turned all his talent trees into worldly affairs, could deal with people as smart as the Holmes brothers. But this did not prevent him from intervening. Turkey, I won't eat with you. I suddenly have something to do and have to go to the UK. Goodbye, everyone. Half an hour later, at Los Angeles International Airport, Ron took the fastest flight to the UK. Late at night, an abandoned old factory on the streets of London. Interpol caught one of Shaw's men in Moscow, Hobbs said, standing on the stage, pointing to a bald man who looked a bit like Toretto in the distance. I gave her psychological counseling, and she gave out Shaw's hiding place. Giselle asked, why don't we act now? Before Hobbs could answer, a voice that surprised him suddenly rang out. Yes, that's what I wanted to ask, too. Ron walked through the police who blocked the street and came straight to Hobbs. Because I want to lure the snake out of its hole, Hobbs replied unhappily. Ron. Why you again? Didn't you say you were not interested in this case? I just don't want to be with a big stupid bear like you. Ron spread his hands. Actually, I am now the British Special Security Consultant and have the right to inquire about everything that happens here, so please report to me. What is the situation now? Agent Hobbs? The expression on Hobbs's face was as if he had eaten a fly. See that bald guy? That's my bait. He is carrying a communication device. I will let him first confirm whether it is IO inside, and then start the action, so that he won't be as reckless as you. See those policemen outside? They are all arranged by me. Even if he has wings today, he can't fly out of here. Haha, Ron sneered. So did you remember to scout the terrain here before encircling him? Scout the terrain? Hobbs was a little puzzled. Do you think this is a battlefield? We are not fighting a war. I'm just here to catch a terrorist. That's right. Ron took the telescope from Giselle and looked around, a smile unconsciously flashing across his lips. But don't forget that your opponent is back from the battlefield. So what? Hobbs began to have a bad feeling in his heart. Listen, big stupid bear. Ron threw the telescope into Hobbs' arms and pulled Giselle back. If I were Owen, I would definitely install remote-controlled bombs on the load-bearing beams of these platforms and detonate them when I escape from here. Believe me, these bombs can make you mess for a while. By the time you react, I will have already slipped away. Hobbs's face changed. If this is really the case, all the arrangements for tonight are basically written off. However, this is not over yet. Ron continued to undermine Hobbs' confidence. Also, who told you that Owen was hiding here? Don't you think this news came too easily? It's like it was deliberately released to attract your attention. When did you become so stupid? Ron sighed, shook his head, and pushed Giselle to a safe area. This place is not within the load-bearing support range. It is a corridor connected to another building. Ron is sure that there is absolutely no bomb underneath. Hobbs's face is already very ugly. Send someone in to check the load-bearing structure here immediately. Don't let anyone go. Chapter 169, Total Defeat. Just checking the load-bearing structure, do you think it's enough? Why did Owen report his address? Ron's eyes flashed with wisdom. Just like the subordinate you just let go, that was a bait you planned to lure Owen out. Have you ever thought that this location might be the bait that Owen used to lure you here? Taj, the latest intelligence, Interpol headquarters has been invaded, FXXK, O'Connor said in annoyance. This is a trap. It leads us away so that we can deal with Interpol. Brian, you take the people over first. Hobbs and I will stay here, Toretto said firmly. Owen will take us to find Letty. O'Connor led the people away, and Hobbs crossed his arms. Ron, what about you? Why are you still here? Of course it's to watch your good show, Ron gloated. Compared to over there, I think the fun here may be a little bigger. Does Ron think this place is a joke? Hobbs was furious. If he couldn't beat this bastard, Hobbs would definitely teach him a lesson. Boom! As everyone was talking, the door of the warehouse where Owen was hiding was knocked open, and a modified car of a strange shape flew out of the warehouse. At the same time, the explosives on the load-bearing columns under the surrounding platforms were detonated almost at the same time. What the hell is that? Hobbs quickly jumped onto the platform where Ron was, and was finally not affected by the explosion. He turned his head and saw the car passing by, and was shocked. I think it's a modified F1 car. It should have at least 800 horsepower, Ron said playfully. This ghost thing can only bully people like Hobbs and Toretto who don't have enough IQ. If these two people have a little brain, they will find a way to set up more than one anti-tank pile position, and then try their best to force his car in. If you think this method is too troublesome, you can also try to force him into a road with poor road conditions. With the chassis of this car, it would be strange if it doesn't break down. However, it is obvious that Hobbs and Toretto don't have this kind of IQ, and they only know how to do it blindly. Toretto and Hobbs got into cars and chased in the direction Owen left. Ron also grabbed the car from the British police. Special Advisor to MI6, Ron looked at the certificate given by McIff, turned around and made a gesture to Giselle. This beautiful lady, can I invite you to ride with me? Of course, Giselle put her hand on Ron's. Although Owen had the advantage of being the first mover, he was on the crowded streets of London, and this advantage was soon caught up by the three of them. Toretto was in the front, followed by Hobbs, and Ron with Giselle fell behind, but he was not in a hurry at all. Anyway, he had not promised anything, and this time he followed purely to satisfy his curiosity. We've stopped Owen. We're in front of him, the policeman in front shouted on the police communication channel. Let's stop him now. Bang! The shovel-like bumper on Owen's modified car suddenly lowered, and a steel plate was propped up at the window position, just connected to the shovel head to form a huge shovel. The steering wheel was only slightly turned to the side, and the expected collision did not happen. The police car that was stopped in front was directly lifted into the sky by Owen's shovel. Okay, now I know what this ghost is used for, Giselle said in surprise. Ron complained, it's just a surprise attack. It's just to catch you off guard. Under normal circumstances, with your smart little brains, you can think of many ways to deal with him. How is it possible? I haven't figured out a way to deal with him yet. Giselle frowned her beautiful eyebrows. While she was talking, Owen lifted another police car into the sky, and the landing police car also blocked the two cars chasing behind. Fortunately, Toretto and Ron were good drivers, and they immediately swung the car sideways and dodged. No matter how bulletproof the car is, the tires are still rubber. As long as you hit the tires, it will be done immediately. How can you hit it so quickly? If it were me, it would be no problem, Ron said bluntly. Of course, it may be a little difficult for the two idiots, but they may try other methods, such as RPG. Oh my god. Such a big London police station, can't you even find an RPG? Do you think everyone is as violent as you? Giselle rolled her eyes and said nothing, and at the intersection ahead, Ron suddenly turned the car and drove in another direction. Giselle, aren't we going to continue chasing? It's enough to leave this side to those two idiots. I want to see the excitement on the other side. Ron's current direction is officially heading towards the Interpol headquarters building. This can also be regarded as Ron's little calculation. Anyway, Ron was just here to help. If Hobbs didn't suffer a little, this big stupid bear would definitely not obey. Toretto's side was originally all his own people. As long as Hobbs gave up his power, Ron could immediately take over the management of the Special Operations Team. The situation at Interpol headquarters was not much better than Toretto's. Owen's team was a very professional team. The sniper on the roof made O'Connor almost unable to raise his head. Under the cover of the sniper, the other two burly men rushed out of the building quickly, with assault rifles constantly spraying flames. The police camp with uninterrupted firepower suppression had no way to form an effective counterattack. It can be said that today's operation, under the command of Hobbs, was almost a complete defeat. Whether it was the wanted criminal Owen or the mechanical components hidden in the Interpol headquarters, none of them were saved. If Ron didn't take action. Can you please go down first? Ron parked the car on the side of the road. Get out of the car. A question mark appeared on Giselle's head. Right. Ron opened Giselle's door very gentlemanly. If it weren't for the small space in the car, which inevitably led to some physical contact between the two, This behavior could be regarded as a model of gentlemanliness. Hobbs's men are really embarrassing. They are simply embarrassing us American agents. If I don't do something, I will be embarrassed to say hello to other colleagues when I go out on the future, so what are you going to do? I don't know why. Giselle has an inexplicable confidence in Ron. Of course, help them. Ron closed the door and restarted the car. The whole car body trembled with the roar of the engine. But Ron released a handbrake, quickly changed gears, and the car started like an arrow, rushing towards the gate of Interpol headquarters. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170 Gambling. I bet you a kiss, and the fight will end in 5 minutes at most. Beep. Beep. After saying that, Ron honked the horn without waiting for Giselle's reaction, and the police on both sides immediately separated a road. At the same time, he pulled out the safety of 2 smoke bombs. Da-da-da. The 2 big men in Owen's gang immediately fired a string of bullets at the speeding car, but Ron, who was quick-eyed and quick-handed, opened the car door and rolled down from the car before they fired. At the same time, Ron threw 2 smoke bombs to the ground. Hiss! The smoke began to spread, immediately covering Ron's figure. Hunting time, start now. Ron's low moan sounded in the thick fog, and immediately attracted a string of bullets for him, but there was no sound of bullets entering the flesh. The empty bullets hit the car behind where Ron was supposed to be, and a string of sparks were shot from the car body. The hasty firing exposed the shooter's position. Bang! Ron fired a shot in the direction of the fire, and the burly man who looked like a pirated Hobbs fell to the ground. Kill +1. Damn it. That's Ron the Grim Reaper. The blonde woman in charge of the response in the corner quickly picked up the walkie-talkie and shouted, "Retreat quickly. Don't engage in a firefight with him. Retreat quickly. Aren't you making a fuss about nothing?" The topless sniper said disapprovingly, "It's just a watchdog of the FBI. As long as the smoke clears, I can blow his head off." "Shut up, you idiot." The blonde woman was furious and continued to order, "Obey orders and retreat quickly." "That's not the kind of idiot from the FBI. It's the ace agent of the IRS. The guy that Owen doesn't want to confront head-on. Obey orders. Retreat quickly." "But what about Dirk and Benji?" "I've asked them to retreat. As many as they can run out. Go." During the brief exchange, Ron, wearing a gas mask, walked in the smoke without making any sound from his feet, just like a real Grim Reaper, waiting to harvest all lives in the smoke. Unfortunately, until the smoke completely cleared, he didn't find the next hunting target. Damn, these cowards. Ron kicked the body that was hit by it, and found that his walkie-talkie was still working. He immediately became playful and picked up the walkie-talkie. "Dirk. Dirk. Damn, where are you, you idiot?" The voice of the walkie-talkie was still ringing. "Owen? Is that you, Ron?" "It's you." Owen also heard an extremely familiar voice and immediately showed an extremely constipated expression. "Why do you brothers always play this boring trick of sneak attack every time I meet you brothers?" Ron simply played a piece of electronic music to him. Fuck. Fuck. You sneak attack. You can't afford it. You little trash. You don't have the strength. You don't dare to confront me head on. What are you playing? Beep! The signal of the walkie-talkie and Ron's hand was cut off. Tisk. So boring. Ron casually threw the walkie-talkie to O'Connor as if he was talking to his subordinates. "Let your people check the signal source of this walkie-talkie and see if there is any gain." "Yes, sir." O'Connor stood at attention reflexively, but immediately realized that Ron was not his superior, so he could only stand there awkwardly. However, Ron was in no mood to pay attention to O'Connor's reaction, and walked to Giselle. "How is it? Is it very simple? So is it time for some people to fulfill their bets?" "I didn't agree to your bet." Giselle smiled, facing Ron who was getting closer and closer, but she didn't have any intention of dodging, but instead offered her lips, as if she was ready to be picked. "In this situation, if you still hesitate, can you still be considered a scumbag?" Ron immediately kissed her deeply, and the policeman next to him seemed to become a background board. "Hey, boss, are we invisible? Can they not see us?" a young London policeman said dissatisfiedly. The superior tugged at his hat in dissatisfaction. "If you have his skills, you can kiss my wife without any problem." "Really?" On the other side of the city, after the London police and Hobbs lost track of him, Toretto finally caught up with Owen's convoy. However, Owen's convoy had already dispersed, and Toretto, who had no way to split himself, could only stare at one car and follow it. When he finally forced a car into an alley, the car in front suddenly stopped. The person who got out of the car was Letty. Toretto was stunned for a moment, and just got out of the car in a daze. Letty did not pay attention to his call, but took out a pistol and shot him, then walked away. Ron, you are right, I saw Letty, in the infirmary, while Ron was bandaging his wound, Toretto said. I told you a long time ago, but she doesn't know me at all. Toretto's eyes could not hide the disappointment. Come on, haven't you ever watched a soap opera? All love stories are played out like this: car accident, cancer, amnesia, and in the end, the hero and heroine still overcome difficulties and get together. Luo complained, but his hands did not stop. Believe me, if you and Letty are a love movie, amnesia is definitely the best plot. If it is replaced with cancer or amputation due to car accident, I don't know how to write it to make it perfect. What TV series are you talking about? Why don't I seem to have seen this type of drama? Toretto was stunned. Recently, I have been watching Korean dramas. Don't worry, plots like cancer will not appear in you, because you never eat kimchi. Eating too much of that stuff can cause cancer. After saying that, Ron slapped Toretto's wound. Hiss, Toretto gasped in pain, but in order to maintain his usual tough guy image, he held back and didn't scream. What should I do next? How can I get Letty back? Toretto asked Ron for help. Of course, you have to handle the relationship on your own, but I know that no matter what, we should at least get rid of Owen first. As he spoke, Hobbs, with a bandage on his head, walked into the infirmary. The bandage on Hobbs' head was wrapped several times, and from a distance it looked like a turban wrapped around his head. Ha ha ha, big stupid bear, what did you do? Ron laughed out loud. You look like an Indian now. Let me take a picture later. Your daughter will definitely like your current look. Stop it. Hobbs tried in vain to stop him. Click the photo was successfully obtained, and Hobbs's shameful collection +1. Ron, you have such a damn bad taste. Can't you think about how to catch that bastard Owen now? Chapter 171, Parting Ways. This is crazy. We are not in Brazil. You are playing with flying cars. Do you think you are filming a 007 movie? We can't do this. Roman walked around the room a little crazy. This was the place where Hobbs temporarily used as the headquarters. Ron walked around and looked around. The advantage is that it is close to the Thames. The view from the upstairs is good. The accommodation conditions are decent. In London, where every inch of land is valuable, it is really good to find such a place close to the city center. The disadvantage is also obvious. It is too obvious. Ron is sure that with Owen's cunning, there must be spies around here. As soon as Hobbs goes out, he will know. Wait. There is no need to arrange spies at the door. If Ron remembers correctly, Hobbs's temporary female assistant is Owen's insider. Ron calmly looked at the sturdy woman standing next to Hobbs, who is half a circle stronger than an ordinary man. If Ron remembered correctly, her name was Riley. She was standing straight in a military posture, looking like an excellent soldier. If Ron had not seen the movie, he would never have thought that such a woman would be an insider. Speaking of which, Hobbs seemed to have a buff, that is, the female assistant would 100% run away with others. In the fifth film in Brazil, the temporary female assistant was abducted by Toretto. Now in London, the same is true. The female assistant ran away with Owen in the end and tricked him. Hey, men, you should go check your throat. Your duck voice has changed to dog voice. Are you scared? We can't bark woof woof. Taiji laughed mercilessly, and even imitated the screams of a puppy that was kicked by someone. The sound was indescribably pitiful, which caused everyone to laugh. Roman said dissatisfiedly, when a woman shoots at you, you should run away with your tail between your legs. We can't go on like this. What if she hits my head? Man, Roman was talking about the time when Toretto was shot by Letty today. Of course, he was also shot several times by the blonde woman under Owen today. Fortunately, he escaped without any danger. No, your head is much bigger than this. Taj continued to laugh at him. This was his fun. He and Roman got along like this, making fun of each other. Of course, Roman was usually beaten by him in all aspects. Tell Toretto and everyone else not to talk too much about family matters in front of Hobbs. Ron walked up to Taj casually and warned him softly. Taj was a think tank in Toretto's team. He seemed to be careless all day long, But he was actually meticulous. As expected, Taj continued to joke with Roman as if he hadn't heard anything. He only nodded casually when Ron looked at him, without any fuss or even a glance at Ron. Ron believed that he would definitely tell Toretto the news in his own way, without alerting the insider. Maya, it's confirmed that it's Letty, but the situation is complicated, Ron reported to Maya on the phone. Letty is still alive, that's the most important thing. Nothing is more important than family being together. Did Toretto teach you that? No, it was said when Dad was still alive. Well, how is life in the monastery? If you don't adapt, you're welcome to move back. Ron touched his nose and said a little embarrassedly. If it wasn't for Toretto, he wouldn't have known that Maya had become a nun and planned to devote the rest of her life to God. Although this was Maya's own choice, Ron still felt a little guilty. If it weren't for his sudden appearance, Maya would have had a child with O'Connor, but now she lives in a monastery. No, don't worry about me, Ron, I'm fine now, Maya said softly. Besides God, the only thing I care about now is my family. If you can help me take care of my brother and Letty, I will be very grateful to you. Can you help me, Ron? Don't worry, Ron promised firmly. As long as I am here, I promise not to let your family get hurt. And you, Ron, you are also my family. You have to take care of yourself too. There is no need to worry about this. The person who can hurt me in this world has not been born yet, Ron said arrogantly. It is said that men like to act tough in front of the women they like. Ron is not sure what his feelings for Maya are now, but he understands that Maya's personality is different from Fiona's, and it is absolutely impossible for her to accept and share with others. Maybe this is the best choice after being disturbed by himself? Well, this damn man's possessiveness. Ron clapped his hands, attracting everyone's attention to himself. I'm not criticizing anyone, Ron said, his eyes fixed on Hobbs, but I think tonight's pursuit was a complete failure. Does anyone object? Even the always conceited Hobbs looked away after staring at him for a while, letting Ron do what he wanted. Hobbs. Now you have the best team in the world, but what did you do? Ron said in a serious tone. I think it's time to split up. What? You just came and you're leaving again. Riley looked at Ron with disdain, and stood in a straight military posture to challenge him. If I remember correctly, this kind of behavior is called desertion on the battlefield, and you will be brought to a military court, sir. Ron couldn't help but secretly applaud her in his heart. This move was really wonderful. It seemed to be speaking up for Hobbs, but in fact it mocked Ron's desertion. It not only hit Ron, a shrewd outsider, but also disturbed the hearts of Hobbs and his group. It's not my turn for a soldier to teach me what to do. Besides, there is a crime in the military court called poor command. You can learn about it, Mom, Ron sneered and retorted. Besides, I never said that I came here to join you. My job is just a special consultant to MI6 to conduct a hazard assessment on your pursuit. Now that my mission is completed, isn't it a matter of course for me to go back? Ron spread his hands. Hobbs opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but held it back. Don't worry, I won't write too many unfavorable comments about you in the report. Although we are different organizations, at least we are from the same country, Ron comforted. He now understood Micklef's sinister intentions. Britain can't afford to offend the United States now. In terms of international status, it is a bit like the younger brother of the United States. If the elder brother wants to do something at the younger brother's home, the younger brother must not stop it. But I can't say anything. Let your people say it themselves, right? This is the meaning of letting Ron serve as this special consultant. Well, goodbye, everyone. Chapter 172 Return to Los Angeles. Ring, ring, ring. Ron had just walked out of the building and the phone in the roadside phone booth suddenly rang. Ron ignored it and continued to walk past, but the ringing of the phone seemed to follow him. Every time he passed a new phone booth, the phone would always follow him, until a curious passerby tried to pick up the receiver, and Ron finally couldn't help but speak out to stop it. Give me the phone, it's for me. Yes, that's right, it's for me, but my friend likes to play pranks on me. Ron drove away the confused passersby and picked up the phone, saying in a helpless tone, Dear Mr. McCaw, what on earth are you doing? If I remember correctly, the hazard assessment report you wanted was sent to your email 5 minutes ago. In addition, I think if you have the time to track me with the street cameras, you might as well track Owen, who just made a big fuss in London. Owen is an agent who is very familiar with London. He and his brother were born and raised here. He knows very well where the cameras are and how to hide from our pursuit. Otherwise, Why do you think we invite outsiders like you to enter our country? McCaw's voice was steady and powerful. Ron sighed. Okay, thank you for your explanation. Do you have any other instructions? Respected Director, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. What? If you plan to go to Sherlock now, I just want to remind you that he is not at his home at 221B Baker Street. He is at the laboratory building of the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. I say, can you brothers not ignore all the questions that others want to ask and give answers directly? Don't you know that this will make people feel very uncomfortable? The Holmes brothers are indeed born of the same mother. Although their interests and styles are completely different, their way of speaking is exactly the same. They also like to be mysterious. If an unfamiliar person hears someone talking to others in this way, he will definitely feel that the other party knows everything. In fact, this is not the case. Anyone who knows Ron can analyze his next move. Although he is reluctant to admit it, Ron seems to have only Sherlock as a friend in London, except for Micklef and the two Shaw brothers who are wanted. It's just a professional habit. If you don't like it, we can change the way we talk. Forget it. Thank you for your reminder. Is there anything else? A personal matter. Ron clearly heard that McCovey changed the call environment, probably to avoid his subordinates. I want to ask if you can stay in the UK to work. I can offer you a very high position in MI6. I only ask you to help me keep an eye on Sherlock in your spare time. You know, I'm very worried about his condition. With his potential, if his ideas become extreme one day, how much damage can be caused? I think you should understand, which will undoubtedly make my identity very passive. Look at what Sundeer is. He clearly said that he was worried that Sherlock would affect his career, but in fact he still wanted to care about him in a way that a brother can. With such an awkward way of expression, Ron really wanted to ask him if he knew Achi from Konoha Village. Of course, Ron has no right to criticize others. After he graduated from Barney Ross's death squad, he had many options, but he chose to go to Los Angeles to be a commander without troops. It's hard to say that he didn't worry about Sheldon. This is probably the common problem of all brothers. You know it's impossible. I still have my family to take care of over there, Ron said in a more relaxed tone. Don't worry. Sooner or later, Sherlock will find someone who can tolerate all his arrogance to stay by his side. At that time, the only thing you need to worry about is his sexual orientation. Of course, this is just a small problem. I can introduce you to my uncle's son, Mitchell. He went to Vietnam with his male wife to adopt a baby girl as their child. I think that the world will really end only when your brother suddenly puts on a red cloak and wears a strange ring to draw circles one day. It seems that there are still many things I don't know about Sherlock. Thank you for your information, Ron. You can go to Sherlock now. In addition, if I need the advice you gave one day, I will ask you for help. The London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine is a top medical graduate school affiliated with the University of London, specializing in teaching and research in public health and tropical medicine. It ranks 9th among all medical schools in the UK. In the anatomy room on the first floor below the laboratory building, a handsome long-faced man was whipping a corpse with a horsewhip. Sherlock, is there anything bothering you today? Ron suddenly pushed the door open. Back to Los Angeles, Sherlock looked up at Ron and said something without context. He threw away the whip and turned to the female doctor on the site and said, I'll see his bruise report in 20 minutes. Wait, did you put on lipstick? You didn't put it on just now. I just touched it up a little. Would you like some coffee? Black coffee, 2 sugars. Thank you. Sherlock walked out of the laboratory on his own without even looking at Ron, as if he didn't exist at all. I want iced Americano, no sugar, thank you, Mom. Ron was confused and quickly followed up. What do you mean by back to Los Angeles? Do you Holmes brothers always talk so incoherently? If you want to ask how to deal with those terrorists now, my answer is to go back to Los Angeles. How do you know what I want to ask? The reasoning here is a bit too complicated for your IQ. My advice is not to ask, so as not to expose your innate intellectual defect. Sherlock walked with big strides, exposing his back completely to Ron, who had already clenched his fists. So angry. If I didn't always need your help, even if your brother was the boss of the British agents, I would have to give you a good beating, believe it or not. Well, why should I go back to London? Ron changed the question. While picking up an unknown reagent for experimentation, Sherlock answered, your appearance has disrupted the terrorists' plan, So hiding yourself in the dark at this time will make it easier for desperate idiots to show off all kinds of operations that exceed the lower limit of human IQ. That's your chance. Chapter 173 Sherlock and Watson. Okay, I'll listen to you. I'll go back to Los Angeles in a while, Ron thought for a moment and agreed. Sherlock's style of doing things is always mysterious, but Ron still roughly glimpsed a ray of his thoughts. Because of his existence, Owen will definitely change his original strategy. On the one hand, his advantage as a prophet will be lost, and on the other hand, Owen may go to his powerful mother for help. The power to be faced at that time is definitely not comparable to the makeshift team that Owen has temporarily built. Although Ron is not afraid of any challenge, based on the principle of saving trouble, Ron still thinks it is better to follow Sherlock's advice. It's definitely not cowardice, it's just troublesome. Squeak. The door of the laboratory was pushed open, and the person who came in was not the female doctor who was just going to invite for coffee, but a fat man and a lame man. Sherlock seemed to not see them and continued to do experiments on his own. Ron showed an intriguing expression. Isn't this Watson, Sherlock's true love? Sherlock suddenly said, Mike, can I borrow your cell phone? I don't have a signal, can't I use a landline? Fatty Mike replied. I prefer texting, sorry, it's in my coat, here, use mine. Watson, who had some inconvenience in his legs and feet, handed over a special edition BlackBerry. Oh, thank you. Sherlock took the phone, and the fat man took this opportunity to introduce, this is my old friend John Watson. After saying that, Mike looked at Ron, meaning that it was your turn to introduce him, but Sherlock had no intention of introducing Ron. Instead, he asked casually while sending a text message. Afghanistan or Iraq? What? Watson was stunned. Afghanistan or Iraq? Which one? Sherlock repeated the question again, and Ron's mouth curved slightly. Things are becoming more and more interesting. I wonder if Mr. Mycroft's heart will be broken when he sees the famous foul-mouthed Mr. being so patient. He probably won't be able to hold a nephew in his life again. Of course, adoption is another matter. Afghanistan, what's wrong with you, Molly? Thank you for the coffee. Sherlock took the coffee. Why is your lipstick on? It doesn't work for me, the female doctor said disappointedly. Really? I think it works well. Your mouth looks too small now. Sherlock walked while drinking coffee, as if he was at home. The female doctor handed the iced Americano to Ron and left sadly. Ron took a sip of coffee. I say, don't you see that she put on lipstick to attract your attention? But Sherlock didn't mean to pay attention to him, and put the coffee on the table. What do you think of the violin? Ron and Fatty Mike looked at each other and turned their eyes to Watson. Based on their understanding of Sherlock, this sentence must be said to Watson. Sorry, what? Watson was a little puzzled by the two people's gaze. I play the violin when I'm thinking about something, and sometimes I don't talk for days. Does that bother you? Sherlock turned around and said, future roommates should know each other's worst side. Watson looked at his introducer. Mike, have you told him about me? Not a word. Then who told me about roommates? I did. Sherlock glanced at the test report just delivered by the female doctor, and wrote down all the contents on it, and picked up his coat. I told Mike in the morning that it would be difficult for me to find a roommate. Now he's here. Just after lunch, and brought an old friend with him. Obviously, he just returned home from serving in Afghanistan. This is not difficult to infer. Then how did you know about Afghanistan? Watson said numbly, but Ron could clearly see that he was also beginning to be interested in Sherlock. Ron suddenly felt that everything in front of him was becoming more and more gay. I live in a nice little place in the center of London. Sharing the rent shouldn't be a big deal. Let's meet there tomorrow night at 7. Sherlock was always at his own pace. He didn't care what others said, or even if he heard it, he didn't bother to pay attention. Sorry, I'm in a hurry. After that, Sherlock pushed Watson away and left. We just met and we're going to look at houses together, Watson called Sherlock. We don't even know each other at all, let alone where to meet. I don't even know your name. I know you're a military doctor who just returned from Afghanistan due to injuries. I know you have a brother who is very worried about you, but you refuse to ask him for help because you can't stand him, maybe because he's an alcoholic, or more likely because he just abandoned his wife. And I also know that your counselor thinks your limp is a mental illness, which I think is quite accurate. Sherlock walked back again. Although his expression was normal, Ron still found that he couldn't suppress a little pride. Ron had a minor in psychology and deeply understood that such an extremely narcissistic personality would never give up any opportunity to show off. Generally speaking, if such a person has no one to protect him, he will be beaten from childhood to adulthood. There is such an example in his family. Can we continue like this? My name is Sherlock Holmes, and my address is 221B Baker Street. Good afternoon. Sherlock winked at Watson in a very coquettish way and closed the door. Yes, he is always like this, X2. Ron and the fat man opposite said in unison. Are you Sherlock's friend? Watson asked. Of course not, Sherlock has no friends, or you may be an exception, Ron answered as a matter of course. From a certain perspective, gay friends can also be regarded as a kind of friend, right? Probably. But I can answer your doubts. Maybe it's because the disease of pretending to be arrogant is contagious, and the transmission route is human to human. Ron was hooked by Sherlock's performance and also had the urge to pretend. Watson looked at Ron for help. Do you know how he knew I just came back from Afghanistan? Of course, it's not hard to guess. Ron drank his coffee in one gulp. Your hairstyle and the way you stand indicate that you are a military man. Sorry, Sherlock and I heard some of your conversation in the room. You said, this is different from before, which means you were a student here, so you are obviously a military doctor. Your face is tanned, but not above the wrists, which means it's not intentional sunbathing. Your legs are inconvenient, but you didn't ask for a chair when you stood, as if you forgot about it. You have some psychological problems. That means the injury was external, a combat injury, there was a war, and the sunlight was strong. The only places that meet these two conditions recently are Afghanistan and Iraq. Admiring the stupid expressions of the fat man and Watson, Ron felt refreshed. Fortunately, he was a fan of Sherlock Holmes. Ron could almost recite this classic description from the original novel. No wonder Sherlock and Sheldon never give up any opportunity to show off. It turns out that showing off is such a pleasant thing. Ron secretly decided to continue to promote this sport in the future. You just said that I do psychological counseling. Watson wanted to say something, but was interrupted by Ron again. Your lameness is due to psychological reasons. Of course you need psychological counseling. I have a friend who was also injured in the war in Iraq. He is fine after only 3 months, but his injury is in the buttocks. Ron also put on his coat. Nice to meet you too. My name is Ron. I am also in a hurry. I have to go back to the United States. I believe we will meet again soon. Chapter 174 Teaching Penny Kung Fu. It was almost evening when Ron returned to Los Angeles. He looked at his watch and it was almost time for Sheldon's meal. With his brother who was as precise as a machine, there was no chance of any unexpected situation. Even Leonard was trained by him to start defecating at a fixed time. But when he returned home, there was still something different. Just as he was thinking about whose food to grab today, the situation in the house surprised him. Sheldon ate at the same time as usual, but the other 3 friends were gone. There were 3 untouched takeout boxes on the dining table, leaving only Penny to accompany him. Where are Leonard and the others? Ron asked. Did they finally get tired of your uprising? I have to say, you did a great job. No, they were lured away by the new actress upstairs, Penny said helplessly. If you haven't eaten yet, you can join us. Their food hasn't been touched yet. Today is my treat. It's really strange. You who always eat for free actually have a day to take the initiative to treat others. Ron picked up a box of takeout and started eating. I can't believe they let her use them like this, Penny said indignantly. She made them follow her like dogs with just one word. Ron, did you know that just last week, she asked Howard to drive her all the way to Orange County to pick up the TV? If I remember correctly, you asked Leonard to do the same thing, Ron complained. Your ex-boyfriend even took off his and Sheldon's pants, Penny explained without blushing. Ron, this is different. Leonard and I are friends, but this girl uses them and lives a comfortable life with her pretty face. She takes advantage of those simple and weak-willed men, auditions for stupid TV shows, and now she's running wild on my turf. Ron rolled his eyes. Don't you think you're becoming more and more like your old self? He wanted to say that, but he held back in the end. Penny might have had some intention of using them at the beginning, but now it's really different. She really treats Leonard and Sheldon as friends. Ron, I remember that you agents seem to be very good at fighting, right? How is your fighting level? Penny suddenly asked, not knowing what she had in mind. It can be said that if there were no rejuvenating drugs to make those damn old guys younger, I can be said to be the best agent in the whole United States in hand-to-hand combat. No one else. Ron, who was originally still struggling with his meal, couldn't help but be Versailles when he heard Penny ask about his job. Ron shook his head. I'm not that kind of person. I must have been infected by Sherlock. Really? Can you teach me a few moves? The kind that can be learned quickly and is very useful. Penny showed an interested look. Sheldon, do you want to learn a few moves together? Penny. Sheldon rolled his eyes. If I wanted to learn, I would have learned it a long time ago. There is no need to wait until now. Okay. Penny put down the lunchbox, tidied her clothes, and was eager to try. Can it be now? Because you are too busy. I don't know when I can see you next time. Of course, no problem. Ron put down the box and wiped his mouth. He was almost done with his meal. This kind of Chinese food that Sheldon likes very much is just enough to fill Ron's picky taste. He still prefers the authentic Chinese food in Chinatown. Let me make it clear first, my fighting skills are not the ones commonly used by the military now. Instead, I learned Chinese martial arts from the boxing gym in Chinatown when I was a child. It's called Kung Fu. Ron stood up. He didn't mind doing some exercise after a meal. Don't say that strenuous exercise after a meal is bad for the body. For him, this amount of exercise is just a warm-up. Kung Fu? So cool. Penny didn't know what she was thinking of. Her eyes lit up. Maybe she was thinking of the way she rode on the freeloader who just moved in upstairs and beat him. Ron, who had just been infected by Sherlock and whose IQ increased by 20%, didn't need to guess what Penny was going to do with her little thoughts. He knew with his toes what she was going to do with learning Kung Fu. Okay, first of all, you have to become my disciple, serve me tea, and call me master. Ron put on an immortal posture, but because of his white appearance, he looked a little out of place. There was no way. Who made him reincarnate? If he didn't reincarnate, he wouldn't be able to learn the real Kung Fu that he dreamed of in his previous life. There's no black tea here. How about lemon tea? Penny hurriedly served Ron a cup of tea. Ron took a sip and it was still sweet. Forget it, it was just a lesson for fun, so Ron didn't care so much. The fighting style I learn is called Mo family boxing and Kung Fu. It's not the traditional Mo family boxing, but a style of boxing that my master Mo Yaoqian created by combining several martial arts routines. Among my disciples, the most powerful one is the eldest brother Black Tiger Afu, but he has been missing for a long time. There is also another senior brother who didn't learn very well, named Tang Ren, who is now working as a private detective in Thailand. When you meet these people in the future, you must call them uncles. Do you understand? Okay, I remembered it all. Can you teach me Kung Fu now? Penny was getting more and more impatient. Of course. Ron put down the teacup and stood up, assuming a fighting starting stance. First is this move, two dragons playing with a pearl. Ron's two fingers were like swords, pointing straight at Penny's eyes, but stopped an inch in front of her. With this move, your opponent will lose his eyesight at the first strike. Penny was startled. Is there a move that doesn't cause such great damage? I don't want to go to jail for fighting with others, or try this move. You put your hands on my shoulders. Ron waited for Penny to put her hands on him, then suddenly pulled his hands back from above, pressed Penny's arms down, and immediately put his hands in the lotus shape, lightly supporting her chin. This move is called lotus floating. If you do it right, you can knock someone out in an instant. That's it. Penny's eyes lit up. This is the kind I want to learn. It can't kill people, but it can hurt people. Penny imitated Ron's movements a few times and then performed it quite well. Are there any other moves? I'm going to teach that little bitch a lesson tomorrow, of course. Sheldon pricked up his ears nervously, while Ron automatically filtered out Penny's dirty talk and continued to fulfill his duties as a good teacher. Next is the cat turn. When you have practiced these basic moves well, I will teach you a kick from the sky created by my senior brother, the crow riding an airplane. Chapter 175 Women Fighting. Hank, be in position. There were indeed unidentified people following the two girls selling cupcakes yesterday. I have handed them over to the police, but they were a bit heavy-handed and they are still not conscious. Arthur, be in position. Someone from the Tosi family, who I was responsible for monitoring, also wanted to capture that young lady, but I have already dealt with him. She has been poured with cement and sunk into the sea. Arthur, how could you take someone's life so carelessly? I was kidding, Arthur sneered. Pouring cement is too troublesome, and I have to wait for the cement to dry. I don't have the time for that. In fact, I dissolved his body with hydrofluoric acid. Thanks to your brother-in-law, Hank. This is the method he taught me. I strongly suggest that he be absorbed into our organization after his treatment is finished. I'll consider this idea." This was a video conference on a mobile terminal. Ron thought for a moment as he walked down the stairs, then replied, "But next time you can be lighter." No one can speak. Although the instigator is very obvious, I still want to ask them if there is any other valuable information. It is indeed a good idea to have a Nobel Prize-winning chemistry master in the team. In this way, we may not need to go to Orlov to buy explosives in the future, and we may even be able to output them in the opposite direction. Someone in Brazil just happened to ask the great mentor V for help through Toretto. It seems that it would be a good idea to let Old White make use of his remaining energy and compile a few pamphlets for the guerrillas. Ahem, Andy coughed twice, showing his presence. There is also a strange guy here. He is still alive. If the boss wants to ask anything, I can ask my roommate to help you torture him. Ron was shocked. Isn't Andy a little old man who is powerless? How could he even deal with the killer sent by Owen? But Ron quickly grasped the key point of Andy's words. His roommate? Your roommate? Which one? Does he know torture techniques? Ron was a little surprised. He met a few of Andy's newly released inmates during Christmas. It felt like he was just as he said. There were indeed some talents. But he didn't know which one solved the killer. I'm talking about Hannibal Lecter, the one who worked in the prison kitchen. He also asked you if you needed a cook, but you refused. I have some impression. Ron recalled the old man who was obviously on his deathbed but still had a mouthful of white teeth. He even wanted to ask the old man for his secret recipe for maintaining his teeth. How is he going to torture? Torture is a technical job. Although I have always disliked the CIA, I have to admit that the CIA is a real expert in this regard. They have a lot of psychotropic drugs. No need to be so troublesome. The voice of the strange old man sounded from Andy's side. Just tie the man tightly to the chair, open his mouth with a mouth expander, cut off his flesh piece by piece and stuff it into his mouth, and he will tell everything. Please, don't do this to me. I promise to tell you whatever you ask me, the captured killer roared hoarsely from the other side. If I don't try, how can I know that what you say is true? Vomit first. This is a ruthless person. Hannibal's sinister tone made Ron feel that he would do this. Even eating human flesh is not impossible. This person is not right, but now is not the time to understand such a small character. Okay, Andy, keep an eye on your roommate and don't let him do too much. In short, I want to know the entire industrial chain behind him. Do you understand? I want to see who is so bold to touch my people on my territory. I will collect all his taxes for the next 10 years, Ron said viciously. As he spoke, Ron had unknowingly walked to the laundry room on the first floor. Hearing some noises in the laundry room, Ron simply ended the online meeting with a sentence "stand by" and went around to take a look. Can I talk to you? It was Penny's voice in the laundry room, but it was obviously not talking to Ron. From this angle, he couldn't be seen in the room at all. I want to say that Leonard, Howard and Rajesh are not like ordinary boys. How should I put it? In short, boys like them are very easy to be attracted to women. Please don't take advantage of them. Who said I took advantage of them? I asked them to help. They were happy, and I was happy too. What's wrong with that? What's the difference between this and what you did? Ron took 2 steps down and saw a woman who was a head taller than Penny talking to her. To be honest, although Penny's appearance and figure were considered good among ordinary people, compared with a girl with a model figure in front of him, she seemed a little inferior. What did you say? Penny opened her mouth wide, as if she didn't hear clearly. The model-like woman approached and looked down at him. I heard that they used to surround you before, as if you hadn't done the same thing, bitch. FXXK. Penny stretched out her hand to push, but because she was short and had short arms, she was grabbed by the hair before she could reach the model. You are the one who will die? Ron covered his face in embarrassment, and it seemed that all his teachings yesterday were in vain. But after all, Penny was his roommate, and she was quite caring towards his brother, so Ron couldn't help but remind her. Lotus Fall. Penny didn't know what to do, but suddenly heard Ron's reminder, and immediately she came up with a blessing, and remembered the moves Ron had taught her, and immediately closed her hands from the top to the middle. The elbow hit the model's arm, hurting her so much that she had to let go of Penny's hair, but Penny didn't know that she hadn't finished yet. Penny took a step forward, and with her hands behind her, she pushed the model's chin from bottom to top, making her stagger, and she took several steps back before she could stand up with the help of the table. I must kill you. Bitch. The model girl was furious and rushed forward again. Black Tiger Heart. Ron seemed to have found the fun of playing fighting games and bullying noobs, and reminded again. Penny cleverly ducked and dodged the model girl's face grab attack, stepped forward, and punched the model girl in the stomach. Ugh, the model girl retched, but nothing came out. Oh my god. Women fighting. Howard, who happened to walk into the apartment building and saw this scene, hugged Leonard excitedly. Why are you hugging me when they are fighting? Leonard said, puzzled. I know you, a fool, will be stupid enough to stop the fight. No need, it will be over soon. Ron continued to command the Pokemon named Penny to continue fighting like an esports master. Penny, use 100,000 volts. Penny was stunned, and the model girl took the opportunity to finally pounce on her. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.